Chapter 1557. Lin Xian frowned when he saw this. Do I know you? You don't know me, but my sister could have entered the inner sect, but you took her spot. Tell me, how can I let you go? So that's what happened. Zhou Hai and the others' faces darkened when they heard this, but Lin Xian understood. He did become an inner sect disciple directly, but it was the sect's decision and had nothing to do with him. As for taking Fong Li's sister's spot, he had no idea. But now, the other party didn't explain at all and just showed killing intent towards him. This was completely looking down on him. However, Lin Xian was not afraid of a mere 3-star king. So, he said coldly, becoming an inner sect disciple is the sect's decision. If you have any opinions, you can tell the sect directly. It's useless to talk to me. Of course, if you insist on finding trouble with me, I don't mind teaching you a lesson. Teach me a lesson? Fong Li was stunned. Then he sneered. Haha, what a shameless boast. Kid, I think water must have entered your brain. How dare you say such a thing? He sneered disdainfully. As far as he was concerned, Lin Xian was only a 1-star King Realm cultivator. Such a person definitely wouldn't be strong. Fong Li was a 3-star king, an extremely powerful existence among the inner sect disciples. He had many secret techniques in his hands, and he also had a very unique flame. It could be said that he was incomparably powerful. He only needed to move his finger, and he would be able to squash the other party to death. However, Fong Li still dared to boast about teaching him a lesson? What a joke. Kid, I don't care what background you have, and I don't know how you entered the inner sect. Since you dared to take my sister's spot, you must die. Remember, in your next life, be careful. Don't provoke people you can't afford to provoke. Fong Li's voice was cold. Boundless killing intent surged from his body, forming a murderous aura that pierced through heaven and earth. What? You dare to kill? Fong Li, don't you know the sect rules? Zhou Hai roared. Danzong's sect rules state that disciples of the same sect are not allowed to kill each other. So, even if there was a grudge, it was usually just a lesson. But now, Fong Li wants to kill Lin Xian. This is too shocking. What's the big deal? A bunch of idiots. Anyway, you are here for a mission. Even if you can't return, others will think that you were killed by the 10,000 poison sect. So they won't suspect me. Kid, go to hell's die. Fong Li roared angrily and charged towards Lin Xian. It was a terrifying martial art right from the start. Purple Tiger Beast Fire. A ball of purple flames appeared on Fong Li's body, burning fiercely and releasing a terrifying aura. This flame was refined demons. Fong Li was refined demon. Now that Fong Li was using it, it was even more terrifying. Purple Tiger transform form Fong. Tiger. Single quote. T. It was as if a real demon's king was emitting a terrifying aura. Wherever it passed, the void would quickly crumble. In an instant, it was in front of Lin Xian. On the other hand, Lin Xian's figure flashed, and his speed was like that of a ghost. He instantly disappeared from where he stood and appeared on the other side. He dodged it? Seeing this, Zhou Hai and the others were overjoyed. But in the next moment, they exclaimed. They realized that the purple tiger did not disappear. Instead, it pounced on Lin Xian again. The monstrous flames caused the void to distort incomparably. It's useless. Kid, you can't escape. This is my origin source flame. It won't stop until I kill you. Fong Li sneered from afar. Although Lin Xian's speed surprised him, he did not care. He was very confident in himself. On the other hand, Zhou Hai and the others were worried. Damn Fong Li. This guy really wanted to kill Lin Xian. Lin Xian would be in danger. If that's the case, don't blame me. Lin Xian stopped dodging. Instead, he attacked quickly. He was not afraid of trouble. Since the other party wanted to kill him, he had to kill the other party to prevent future trouble. Azure Dragon Break. A black demonic sword appeared in his hand. Then, he stabbed with it. This was a move that he had just learned. When he used it, its power was terrifying. The sword chi surged and turned into a black dragon. It roared and surged. The black dragon shone like a real divine dragon. It stirred up thousands of waves and moved quickly in the void. There were countless sword radiances on his body. They pierced through the sea of clouds. Boom! The black sword chi collided with the purple tiger's shadow. There was an earth-shattering explosion. The terrifying energy shook heaven and earth. However, the explosion disappeared in an instant. All the energy, including the purple tiger, was destroyed by the black sword chi and disappeared without a trace. Zhou Hai and the others had already retreated to a distance to watch the battle. They could not resist the energy at all. What? He blocked it? How is that possible? Feng Li was shocked. He could not believe it. Feng Li was only a one-star king. He was a three-star king. The difference in strength between the two was like heaven and earth. But he actually managed to block his attack? How is that possible? He can't believe it. In the distance, Zhou Hai and the others were also shocked. Although they had seen Lin Xian fight against the 10,000 poison sex experts, they thought that it was a secret technique that would not last long. But now, Lin Xian was able to block Feng Li's attack with ease. This made them extremely shocked. They even discovered that this was not something that could be achieved through secret arts. Perhaps Lin Xian was truly powerful. Thinking of this, they all breathed a sigh of relief. Feng Li's expression was terrifyingly gloomy. His eyes were like lightning as he stared ahead. Damn it, that's impossible. How did you do it? Could it be that you took some pill that stimulated energy? Yes, that must be it. Otherwise, how could you block my attack? As an alchemist, he naturally knew about this kind of pill that could instantly increase a martial artist's strength. However, it would cause great damage to the body. In his opinion, Lin Xian must have taken such a pill to be able to fight against him. It's just a pill that uses external force. How can it compare to me? Next, I'll let you know my true strength. Feng Li comforted himself. However, Lin Xian snorted coldly. Shameless idiot. With that, his body flashed and he charged forward again. The 9 darkness demonic sword in his hand emitted a monstrous power. He swung it down quickly, and it exploded like thunder. The terrifying sword light slashed toward Feng Li. Chapter 1558. You are courting death. Feng Li was enraged. He did not expect Lin Fan to take the initiative to attack him. This was undoubtedly a provocation. Thousand Beasts Fist. He waved his fists and countless purple flames danced. They formed thousands of fist shadows and charged toward Lin Xian. Every fist was the size of a mountain. They carried a monstrous force and shattered the void. Bang! 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 The sword chi and fist shadows collided, and the violent energy destroyed the entire sky. However, Lin Xian's sword chi was too powerful. The 9 darkness demonic sword slashed down like a death scythe and sliced all the fist shadows apart. In an instant, the purple flames in the sky were extinguished and nothing was left. However, the black sword chi charged toward Feng Li again. Before the sword chi landed, the terrifying murderous intent pierced through the void. What? How is this possible? Feng Li was scared out of his wits when he saw this. That was his ultimate skill. How could it be so easily broken by someone else? He could not believe it. When he felt the chilling murderous intent, his heart raced. At this moment, he finally knew that Lin Fan was stronger than him. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and retreated quickly like a purple ray of light. What? He retreated. Feng Li retreated. In the distance, Zhou Hai and the rest widened their eyes in disbelief when they saw this. Feng Li was a true 3-star king and was extremely powerful. Everyone in the inner sect knew about him. Moreover, his flame was even more terrifying. It was at the Demon King level. But now, Feng Li had actually retreated, and from the looks of it, he was in such a sorry state. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed it. Feng Li retreated quickly like a purple rainbow. However, the black sword chi was even more violent and faster. Not only that, the black sword chi had already firmly locked onto him. It was like a black dragon roaring in the air. Feng Li could not dodge it. At this critical moment, Feng Li gritted his teeth and quickly took out a purple cauldron to block the black sword chi. Clang! The sound of metal clashing was heard and the entire void cracked. Although Feng Li used the purple cauldron to block the sword chi, The powerful force still sent him flying and smashed a few mountains. Fong Li screamed crazily as blood splattered everywhere. Impossible. This is impossible. Damn it. How did you do it? He was truly crazy. Beside him was a sea of purple flames, which formed a king's domain, burning the mountains, trees, and forests. His face was hideous, like a demon. He didn't dare to believe it. However, Lin Xian was like a flickering shadow, instantly appearing beside him. The demonic sword in his hand quickly stabbed down. Pong! Fong Li was sent flying again. God knows how many of his bones were broken. This time, he received serious internal injuries and could barely get up. However, when he saw Lin Xian walking towards him again, he immediately screamed, because he realized that the other party really wanted to kill him. Stop! Damn it! You dare to kill me? Do you know who I am? Fong Li screamed. Lin Xian snorted coldly. What does it have to do with me who you are? I don't know you. Yet you came to kill me for no reason at all? Do you think I'll let you go? Hearing this, Fong Li's face turned ugly. He quickly said, I was wrong about what happened before. I'll apologize to you. Can you let me go? In the distance, Zhou Hai and the others couldn't believe their ears. The arrogant Fong Li was begging for mercy? This was simply too unbelievable. However, Lin Xian snorted coldly, I don't like to leave threats behind, so you must die. Then, he slowly raised the 9 darkness demonic sword. You're courting death, kid. Don't you know that I'm senior brother Lu Chao's man? If you dare to touch me, senior brother Lu Chao won't let you go. Fong Li roared crazily as if he had gone mad. Hearing this, Zhou Hai and the others were shocked. They didn't expect Fong Li to be on Lu Chao's side. One had to know that Lu Chao was a core disciple, and his cultivation had reached the 4-star king level. He was extremely terrifying. If he was angry, he could kill any inner disciple in front of everyone without being punished by the faction. It could be said that in their eyes, Lu Chao was a supreme existence. Lin Xian furrowed his brows. He had already witnessed the methods of that core disciple, Lu Chao. Seeing Lin Xian hesitate, Fong Li sneered again. How about it, kid? Are you scared now? Kneel down and kowtow to me now, and I might spare your life. Otherwise, when I tell senior brother Lu Chao, you'll die. Shut up. Lin Xian snorted coldly. With a wave of his sword, he chopped off Fong Li's head. Poof! Blood spurted out as Fong Li fell. Even in death, he couldn't believe that Lin Xian would dare to kill him. Wasn't he afraid of the revenge of the core disciples? Lin Xian said coldly, You don't have to threaten me. If he dares to cause trouble for me, I'll kill him too. With that, he waved his hand, and the black 9 darkness flame gushed out, burning the corpse on the ground. However, he kept the storage ring and the purple pill cauldron. The cauldron was able to resist his sword chi, so it must be of a high grade. As a powerful inner disciple, Fong Li must have many treasures in his storage ring. On the other hand, Zhou Hai and the others were stunned. They didn't expect Lin Xian to really kill Fong Li. They couldn't believe that Fong Li had been killed. Brother Lin, you? Zhou Hai and the others rushed over. They were dumbfounded when they saw the scene on the ground. Lin Xian shook his head. I had no choice. If I didn't kill him, I don't know when he would kill me. Don't worry, the sect won't be able to find out. As he said, as long as you don't say anything, no one will know that I did it. They'll definitely think that the 10,000 Poisons sect did it. Don't worry, Brother Lin. We won't say anything. Zhou Hai and the others swore. But you have to be careful of senior brother Lu Chao. After all, he's a core disciple. If he finds out about this, we'll be in trouble. Core disciples have the power to kill. They don't have to go through the sect to kill inner disciples. Zhou Hai said worriedly. It's okay. A 4-star king is strong. I might not be able to defeat him, but I'm still able to protect myself. Lin Xian wasn't boasting. He had many tricks up his sleeve, which was far beyond what Zhou Hai and the others could imagine. Then, the group of people moved and left the place. Lin Xian and the others didn't continue with their mission. Instead, they returned to the sect. With their current strength, they couldn't fight against the 10,000 Poisons sect. Lin Xian wasn't in the mood, so the group went back. However, Lin Xian's face darkened when he returned to Danzong. Chapter 1559. Lin Xian wasn't in the mood either, so the group went back. However, Lin Xian's face darkened when he returned to Danzong. He realized that half of his courtyard had been destroyed. This made him extremely angry. When the crowd saw that Lin Xian had returned, they began to point at him and discuss among themselves. In front of him, in the courtyard that Lin Xian had destroyed, there were two young men sitting. When they saw Lin Xian return, they opened their eyes. "You're Lin Xian?" The two of them stared at Lin Xian with hostility. "That's right, it's me. You destroyed my courtyard?" Lin Xian asked coldly. So what if we destroyed your courtyard? Do you dare to resist?" The two of them sneered. "How dare you offend young Master Fong? You're courting death." "Kid, I didn't expect you to be so lucky to be back so soon. If you meet young Master Fong outside, you're dead meat. Don't worry, you didn't meet young Master Fong, but you met us. We'll teach him a lesson. Let him know that some people are not to be messed with. Kid, I advise you to kneel down and apologize, or you'll die a horrible death. You're the ones who should kneel down and apologize. How dare you destroy my courtyard?" Lin Xian's voice was cold, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. "How dare you threaten me?" The two young men sneered. "Kid, don't you know who you are? You're just a newbie who just entered the inner sect. How dare you be so arrogant? I'm young Master Fong's man, and young Master Fong is senior brother Lu's man. You've offended us, and you won't be able to stay in the inner sect for long." At this point, the two young men laughed arrogantly. The crowd was silent because they knew that they were right. That Lin Xian is dead meat. Yeah, he could have offended anyone, but he chose to offend Fong Li. He's too young and doesn't know any better. I think he'll understand after staying in the inner sect for a while. Hearing the voices around them, the two arrogant disciples became even more smug. "Kid, did you hear that? You're hopeless. Kneel down and apologize to us. Maybe we'll let you go if we're in a good mood." You're courting death." Lin Xian didn't say anything. He was like a ghost, appeared in an instant in front of the two young men, raised his palm, and slapped them. Slap. Two crisp sounds rang out. Immediately, the two arrogant youths received two slaps on their faces. How dare you hit us?" The two of them were stunned for a moment before they roared angrily. Normally, they would flaunt their prowess in the inner sanctum. When had anyone dared to bully them? But now, was a newbie who was a new Lin T. As for the surrounding inner disciples, their minds went blank upon seeing this, and they stood rooted to the ground with a blank expression. They couldn't believe what had just happened. However, Lin Xian merely sneered. He waved his palm and sent another slap forward. Slap. Slap. Crisp slaps were heard. Soon, the two arrogant young men's heads were swollen. Blood mixed with teeth, all fell out. The two arrogant young men's faces were swollen and bleeding profusely. Their eyes were full of anger, and they roared crazily. They wanted to dodge, but they couldn't. In the end, there was a look of horror in their eyes. They realized that although Lin Xian was only a one-star king, his strength was too terrifying and unfathomable. They couldn't afford to offend him. "No, don't hit us. I was wrong. Brother, stop. Please spare us." The two arrogant young men knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. When the surrounding inner disciples saw this, their eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. They couldn't believe that the two arrogant young men were kneeling before Lin Xian. God, I'm not dreaming, am I? Aren't they Fong Li's men? They're usually arrogant. Why are they scared this time? Who is that Lin Xian? How can he be so powerful? In an instant, everyone was talking about it. Only Zhou Hai and the others were relatively calm. This was because this was nothing. Even their boss, Fong Li, had been killed by Lin Xian. Of course, they wouldn't tell anyone about this. Lin Xian retracted his hand and wiped his fingers. Then, he said, "You destroyed my courtyard. You should know what to do, right?" Yes, brother. We'll fix it for you now." The two of them moved quickly to fix Lin Xian's courtyard. This scene was too strange. More and more inner sect disciples came to watch. However, the The two arrogant young men didn't dare to be arrogant anymore. Instead, they quickly lowered their heads and worked. Soon, the courtyard was fixed. Lin Xian didn't make things difficult for them and told them to get lost. After the two of them left, the surrounding inner sect disciples also left. However, from now on, no one would dare to offend Lin Xian. Lin Xian entered the courtyard. With a wave of his hand, a formation quickly formed and surrounded the courtyard. Then, he sat down cross-legged and took out Fong Li's storage ring. There were plenty of things inside. There were dozens of subdivine crystals, many elixirs, and many spiritual herbs. Other than that, Lin Xian also found some cultivation techniques. Most of them were useless to him. However, he was interested in one of them called the fire manipulation art. As he became more familiar with the shaken world, Lin Xian realized that the subdivine crystals were unusual even in this place. Therefore, Fong Li had dozens of subdivine crystals, which was quite a lot. As for the ordinary disciples, most of them still used high-grade spirit stones. After putting away the subdivine crystals, Lin Xian opened the fire manipulation art. This fire manipulation art was about an alchemist's control of fire. Lin Xian was inspired by some of the intricacies of the book. Chapter 1560. If Lu Chao found out about this, he might attack him at any time. He had to be careful. Lu Chao was a 4-star king. With his current strength, he could not fight against him. Therefore, he had to increase his cultivation as soon as possible. Also, he had to break through to become a core disciple. Based on the current situation, only 4-star kings had a chance of becoming a core disciple. Lin Xian held the dozens of subdivinity crystals in his hand and used the long-life incantation to absorb them quickly. Just like that, Lin Xian went into seclusion. The other inner disciples were still on the mission of hunting down the 10,000 Poisons sect. Among them, the most dazzling one was the small team led by the core disciple Lu Chao. Wherever they went, the 10,000 Poisons sect was immediately destroyed. No one was spared. Lu Chao was wearing a white robe. His face was cold, and he exuded a powerful aura. He stood in the air like a fire god. With a wave of his hand, the red cauldron above his head shone brightly and formed a sea of fire that killed hundreds of 10,000 Poisons sect martial artists. Behind him, a few inner disciples clapped and cheered. Lu Chao was expressionless as he slowly landed on the ground. Then, he frowned. How long has it been? Why isn't Fong Li back yet? It's been 2 days. Yeah, what's Fong Li doing? Has he returned to the sect? A few inner disciples were confused. Lu Chao looked at the contribution points in his hand and nodded. It's about time. I should be able to exchange for many things. Let's go back to the sect first. Then, they set off and returned to Danzong. However, when they returned, Lu Chao and the others realized that Fong Li had not returned. However, they did not care and went to exchange for treasures. However, after waiting for 3 days, they realized that Fong Li had not returned. Those people all started to frown. Even Lu Chao's expression had sunk. Under normal circumstances, Fong Li would not have dared to leave him for so many days without sending him a message. There was only one possibility for this to happen. Something had happened to Fong Li, and he could not return. No matter what, as his subordinate, Fong Li was very capable. Moreover, he was talented and wanted to nurture him. Thus, Lu Chao became worried upon seeing that Chu Feng had yet to return. He asked in a low voice, "Who was Fong Li with the last time?" "It should be those inner sect disciples," someone said from the side. "Didn't Fong Li say that he had to deal with some personal matters the last time we worked together?" After that, there was no news of him. "Have you searched outside?" Lu Chao asked again. "Yes, I've already searched the nearby forests and cities. In fact, we even searched the place where he left. However, we were unable to find any trace of him. It's like Fong Li has evaporated into thin air." Hearing this, Lu Chao's face darkened. The surrounding disciples were also extremely confused. That's impossible. With Fong Li's strength, there shouldn't be any accidents. Even if I encounter people from the Myriad Poison sect, I should be able to escape even if I can't defeat them. The few of them conversed, but the more they thought about it, the more they felt that something was off. Did something really happen to Fong Li? Lu Chao's face was also gloomy. I think it's very likely. Upon hearing these words, the surrounding inner disciples gasped in shock. Then, their eyes widened. How is that possible? Who could put Feng Li in such a predicament? Unless it's a 4-star king. But we've been on this mission for so many days, and we haven't seen a single 4-star king or myriad poisons sect martial artist. It's useless to think so much. Who did he meet last? Call those inner disciples over, Lu Chao said coldly. Yes, I'll call them over right now. An inner disciple quickly left. On the other side, Lin Xian had been in seclusion all this time, and he finally opened his eyes today. However, he sighed slightly because he hadn't broken through to the 2-star king realm. After entering the king realm, the energy required to break through was extremely huge. Especially for him, he required even more energy than an ordinary person. This was actually very normal. The dragon sword soul was extremely powerful, and its attack power was unparalleled. Thus, the energy it required was much greater than an ordinary martial artist's. Although Lin Xian had many natural treasures and the powerful absorption power of the longevity art, he still couldn't meet the requirements of the dragon sword soul. It seemed like he had to go out and search for opportunities. Lin Xian stood up and prepared to go out. However, although he hadn't broken through to the 2-star king realm, his current cultivation had reached the late stage of the 1-star king realm. His strength was also much stronger than before. However, at this moment, Zhou Hai came over again. His expression was extremely solemn as he said to Lin Xian, Brother Lin, Senior Brother Lu Chao has sent people to look for us. Could it be that we've been exposed? Lin Xian's eyelids twitched when he heard this, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. However, he still took a deep breath and said in a low voice, We shouldn't have been exposed. If we were exposed, he wouldn't have sent people to look for us. Instead, he would have come directly. Perhaps he's just suspicious, or perhaps he doesn't know what happened and wants to ask us. Don't worry. Our cultivations are very low, and we're nothing in his eyes. He won't think that we can kill Feng Li. We just have to calm down. Very quickly, Lin Xian, Zhou Hai, and the others were taken away. Lu Chao's gaze was like lightning as he looked at Lin Xian and the others. He asked coldly, Let me ask you, do you know where Feng Li is? Feng Li? We don't know. Hasn't he returned yet? Zhou Hai and the others played dumb. Why did he look for you that day? Lu Chao continued to ask. Nothing special. It was just a small misunderstanding. It's already been resolved, Zhou Hai continued to explain. A bunch of nonsense. Lu Chao was suddenly enraged, and his expression was unusually cold. Nothing special? I heard that Feng Li has a grudge with this kid, and it's not a small one. Now you're telling me that there's nothing special? What else are you hiding from me? Hurry up and tell me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. I'm a core disciple, and I have the power to kill you. Therefore, even if I kill you now, the sect won't say anything. Hearing this, Zhou Hai and the others turned pale, and Lin Xian's gaze was also cold. Lu Chao's overbearing attitude made him very uncomfortable. Under normal circumstances, he would have already made his move. However, he still had a mission in Danzong that he had yet to complete. Therefore, he couldn't fall out with them. At least, he couldn't let the higher-ups in Danzong notice him. Lin Xian took a deep breath and said in a low voice, Indeed, there was a misunderstanding between me and Feng Li. Chapter 1561. Lin Xian took a deep breath and said, Indeed, there was some misunderstanding between me and Feng Li. I was promoted to an inner disciple by an elder of the sect, taking his sister's spot. I didn't know about this before. Because of this, Feng Li wanted to make trouble for me. But that day, he didn't do anything and left as if he had discovered something else. It should have something to do with the 10,000 Poisons sect. Lin Xian said half of the truth, but he pushed the blame to the 10,000 Poisons sect. Lu Chao didn't say anything. He stared coldly at Lin Xian, and at the same time, he released the pressure of a 4-star king. Feeling this pressure, Zhou Hai and the others turned pale, and their bodies trembled. Lin Xian snorted inwardly. This pressure didn't have any effect on him, but he still used the immortality incantation to squeeze out a few drops of sweat, making his face even paler. After all, he couldn't reveal too much of his strength. Lu Chao was like a demon, and his cold eyes were like sharp swords that could pierce through them. The atmosphere in the air was getting more and more tense. Suddenly, an inner disciple flew in quickly. With a panicked expression, he said, "Senior brother Lu Chao, something bad happened." "What happened? Is it news about Fongli?" Lu Chao asked coldly. "No, it's about the 10,000 Poisons sect." The 10,000 Poisons sect came with a purpose. They built an ancient tomb in the Fengshan mountain range, and it's filled with killing intent. It's already attracted the attention of many sects and countries. Our Danzong is also very shocked. Many people are heading there now. Senior brother, should we go too? Ancient tomb? Let's go take a look. Lu Chao stood up without hesitation. After taking 2 steps, he turned back and stared at Lin Xian and the others. "You better be telling the truth. If I find out that you're lying, I'll kill you immediately." With that, he let out a cold harumph and led the other inner sect disciples up into the sky, disappearing into the void. Zhou Hai and the others were pale, and they sat on the ground with cold sweat. The situation just now really scared them to death. It was fortunate that they had news about the 10,000 Poisons Hall as a shield. Otherwise, they would have been in grave danger by now. Lin Xian's expression was also cold. He knew that this matter was very troublesome. From the looks of it, regardless of whether he was the culprit or not, they still wanted to kill him. Humph, what an overbearing fellow. However, it's still not certain who will kill who. Lin Xian's eyes flickered as he coldly snorted. "Zhou Hai, you guys go back. I need to go out for a while." Lin Xian had always wanted to go out and look for opportunities. This time, the 10,000 Poisons sect had created an ancient tomb that piqued his interest. With the character of the 10,000 Poisons sect, there must be treasures inside. If he could get them, he might be able to become a 2-star king warrior. Once he became a 2-star king, Lu Chao and the others wouldn't be his match at all. At that time, it would be hard to say who would kill who. With a sway of his body, Lin Xian also disappeared in the air. This time, he didn't move together with the other inner disciples. Although they were quite strong, it would be difficult for them to explore such an ancient tomb. Of course, he didn't move alone. He was accompanied by the Crimson Dragon. Finally, there's treasure again. Ben Huang is so excited. The Crimson Dragon stretched his neck and howled like a hungry wolf. He had been holding back for too long these days. "Kid, let's go all out this time and see what good things are in that ancient tomb." The two of them flew in the air like lightning. After flying for about 10,000 miles, they finally found their target. In the distance, there was a black mountain range with soaring killing intent and rampant demonic chi. It was very terrifying, as if it had turned into hell. That aura made even the Crimson Dragon tremble. F***CK. What a dense, baleful aura. The Crimson Dragon was very suspicious, but then his eyes lit up. Lin Xian also checked carefully and reminded, "Be careful. This place is not like the Sky Martial Continent. There are experts everywhere. We must not enter a dangerous place." The two of them descended from the sky and hid their auras. They walked carefully. When they looked up, they could see many figures flashing on the mountain peak in the distance. Among them, there were not only people from the Danzong, but also the sects and countries nearby. They were all looking for the ancient tomb. The closer they got to Feng Mountain Range, the more the aura of death there was. On the ground, black liquid began to appear, and even the trees were rotting. The whole mountain range seemed to have turned into hell. This is Feng Mountain. Even if there is no ancient tomb, it is still a land of death. Zombies often appear here, so you must be careful. He Tu also reminded. There's such a thing? Lin Xian was surprised. He originally thought that the appearance of the mysterious ancient tomb had caused this change, but after hearing He Tu's words, he realized that was not the case. On the side, the Crimson Dragon also explained, he is right. Feng Mountain has been a dead mountain since ancient times. Who knows how many corpses have been buried here, and there is no lack of experts among them. Of course, if the situation is good, they will die and become skeletons. If the situation is bad, they will turn into zombies. Ordinary martial artists will turn into zombies at most, But those peerless experts will turn into zombies with intelligence. Those zombies can cultivate. They are very terrifying. Kid, if we meet those zombies, we can only run. The Crimson Dragon also had a lingering fear. It was obvious that he knew a lot about Fengshan. With the two's reminder, Lin Xian naturally became more careful. However, it was useless. The closer he got to Feng Mountain, the more bones there were. Crack! Lin Xian crushed a few bones with each step. Finally, he startled a skeleton creature. Crack! Crack! Countless white bones crawled out from the ground, forming skeletons. These skeletons were of different shapes. Some were humanoid, while others were beast-like. At this moment, there were more than 10 skeletons, and they quickly pounced on Lin Xian. Lin Xian executed the dragon-capturing hand. His palms were like two true dragons, and they instantly sent the dozen or so white skeletons flying. However, this action of his caused an even greater commotion. More powerful skeletal creatures appeared. An angry roar came from below. Suddenly, the entire ground began to tremble. A crack that was almost 1,000 meters long formed, and then a huge figure appeared. It was also a skeleton's creature, but its body was as big as a small mountain. There were 2 balls of green flames on the huge skeletal bull head. Those were the flames of the soul. Obviously, the skeletal bull head in front of him was not one of the trash from before. It was a creature with intelligence. Chapter 1562. The skeletal bull held a giant black axe in its hand. It was as big as a door, and it was full of holes and corroded. However, its power was extraordinary. The giant black tiger axe was swung in the air. It turned into a black ray of light and blasted towards Lin Xian like a bolt of lightning. Lin Xian clenched his fist and punched out. The blood in his body roared like a dragon. Pung! He used his fist to meet the giant black axe head-on. When the two collided, a sonorous sound rang out, causing the void to tremble. Boulders rolled down from the surrounding mountains. With a single strike, Lin Xian was forced to take a step back, whereas the ox-head Whitebone was forced to take 3 steps back. So strong. Lin Xian was surprised. His punch was extremely terrifying. Even a 3-star king might not be able to take it. However, the skeletal creature was only pushed back 3 steps. He had to admit that it was too strong. As for the white-bone bull head, it roared furiously. Although its intelligence was not very high, it was still able to understand what was happening before its eyes. A human brat was actually able to force him back. This made him extremely furious. The next moment, the green flames in its eye sockets exploded. A layer of light appeared on its white body. The roar was like a wave, carrying a strange, killing intent as it quickly enveloped Lin Xian. Roar! On the side, the Crimson Dragon roared as well. It immediately dispersed the skeletal creature's roar. At the same time, Lin Xian clenched his fist and the 10,000 beast sting appeared in front of him. Then, he formed a seal with his fingers. A black ray of light quickly appeared and shot into the skeletal bull's eye sockets. Roar! The skeletal bull let out a miserable cry. The black axe in its hand slashed in all directions, causing the ground to sink. The green flames in its eye sockets jumped as if it was in pain. However, after a while, the green flames calmed down. As for the white bone ox head, it no longer went berserk. Instead, it stood before Lin Xian in a very respectful and docile manner. Lin Xian grabbed the 10,000 beast sting and put it away. Then, he nodded in satisfaction. His figure flickered as he arrived at the white bone bull's head and sat down cross-legged. On the other side, the Crimson Dragon also flew up. Let's go. Once the order was given, the white bone ox head took a huge step forward and rushed forward. Bang, bang, bang. It was as if a white ancient mountain was moving, causing the earth to tremble. Along the way, many skeletal creatures were alarmed, but when they saw the skeletal bull head, they all hid underground, not daring to come out. This saved him a lot of trouble. Lin Xian used his soul power to scan the surroundings. He avoided most of the martial artists in the sky and arrived at the nearest mountain range. There's a cave. The Crimson Dragon's eyes immediately locked on to the front. Shall we go in and take a look? He asked excitedly. All right, Lin Xian nodded. Then, the two of them turned into rainbows and flew toward the cave ahead. As soon as they entered the cave, Lin Xian felt a gloomy and cold aura surround him. The aura was very strange. It was like a gust of gloomy wind that caused his hair to stand on end. His figure flashed, and the red lotus armor appeared. After all these years, Lin Xian had gathered all the materials and refined the complete red lotus armor. The red lotus armor's might was even greater than the starry sky armor. At the very least, it could be used by King Realm martial artists. As soon as the red lotus armor appeared, Lin Xian immediately felt that the effect of the gloomy wind was greatly reduced. This made him heave a sigh of relief. On the other side, the crimson dragon roared as well. The dragon blood in his body surged and formed a defense to resist the gloomy wind. After the two of them got used to the environment in the cave, they started to size up the surroundings. The inside of the cave was different from the outside. The outside was a swamp with rotten flesh and bones, but the inside of the cave was much cleaner and had a hard rock floor. It was very dark inside, but it wasn't a problem for Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon. With their eyesight, they were naturally able to see that there was a passageway ahead. From the looks of it, it was probably a cave abode. They hadn't expected that they would be so lucky as to find a cave abode at random. A wisp of joy appeared on Lin Xian's face. The Crimson Dragon was delighted as well. Even though it's not the main cave abode, it should be pretty good. Let's go down and take a look. The passageway was in the shape of a spiral and extended underground. Lin Xian and An Hong were bold as they walked down. The passageway was very deep and seemed to lead to hell. Gradually, they heard footsteps reverberating in the passageway. Is there someone here? The two of them were shocked. They restrained their auras and moved quickly. Then, they were stunned. There were indeed footsteps ahead, but they didn't belong to humans. They belonged to bones and zombies. The zombies and bones outside were mostly monsters, but in here, they were all humans. They wore worn-out armor and were expressionless. Their eyes were the color of dead ashes. They walked in the cave like patrolling soldiers. How strange. These zombies can absorb the surrounding aura of death. The Crimson Dragon was surprised. Then, he looked carefully and exclaimed, "Kid, look at the inscriptions on their bodies." Lin Xian looked over as well, and a look of shock appeared on his face. Indeed, the Crimson Dragon was right. The zombies in front of them all had obscure inscriptions on their bodies. Fortunately, the two of them were experts in this field. Otherwise, they might not have noticed it. This is a formation inscribed on these zombies. It allows them to absorb the surrounding aura of death and keep them moving. What a clever trick. I wonder who set it up for them? Could it be the owner of this cave abode? I don't know. Let's go down and take a look, said Lin Xian. The aura of death around them became thicker and thicker, but Lin Xian was not afraid at all. He activated the Crimson Lotus armor and formed a red lotus around him to resist the aura of death around him. The dark red divine dragon also flew quickly, letting out a dragon's roar. His aura was like a furnace of heaven and earth. It was so powerful that the aura of death around him didn't dare to get close. The two of them were like lightning as they rushed forward with large strides. Bang, bang, bang. Wherever they passed, the zombies and skeletons were smashed away. But gradually, more and more zombies appeared. Their bodies were even shining with a metallic light. Their auras were also much stronger than before. Boom. Suddenly, a black shadow appeared in front of them and rushed over. It was a tall zombie. Most of the clothes on its body had already rotted away. The exposed skin was cold and metallic. His movements were stiff and strange, but his speed was strange. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon. What a powerful zombie. It has the aura of a king. Lin Xian was surprised. He found that the zombie had the aura of a one-star king. Buzz. The tall zombie was full of murderous intent. He seemed to have turned into a sharp sword and attacked quickly. Chapter 1563. Wong. That tall zombie was covered in a murderous aura. His entire body seemed to have turned into a sharp sword as he charged forward. Boom. He stretched out his hand with a cold aura and grabbed at Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon. Pong! Dang! Lin Xian punched out, hitting the zombie's palm. The Crimson Dragon also waved its dragon claw and slapped out quickly. Immediately, that tall zombie was sent flying. Although he was powerful and had reached the level of a one-star king, in front of Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon, he could not resist at all. However, to Lin Xian's surprise, this attack did not kill the zombie. Lin Xian's punch had hit the zombie's palm. Although it had pushed the zombie back, it did not seem to have suffered any substantial damage. The Crimson Dragon's dragon claw had only dented a part of the zombie's body. What kind of physique is this? It's so powerful. The Crimson Dragon was surprised. Even an ordinary 3-star king would not have been able to withstand this attack. However, the zombie's body did not split open. It was too strange. That tall zombie roared angrily. His body suddenly bounced up like a spring and charged forward again. His movements were very stiff, but his arms were like two demonic blades that slashed in all directions, even cutting the void apart. Pung pung pung. A low sound rang out. Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon were engaged in a fierce battle. To be honest, this zombie should have died hundreds of times by now. However, its physique was very special. It was like a rare divine weapon that was abnormally tough. In the end, Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon were annoyed. With a low roar, Lin Xian waved his hand. 9 underworld devil flames rushed out quickly, forming a ferocious beast that charged forward. Boom! Whoosh whoosh! The 9 underworld devil flames were very terrifying. Even the zombie could not withstand it. Its body began to melt, forming a puddle of molten iron. The puddle of molten iron quickly condensed into a fist-sized iron ball that flickered with cold light. It even emitted a wave of energy. What is this? You should be able to absorb it, right? Lin Xian waved his hand and grabbed the metal ball. No problem, it can be absorbed. This is the zombie's energy, said Hey Tuesday. That's good. Lin Xian was overjoyed. What he lacked the most now was energy. Holding the mysterious iron autumn in one hand, Lin Xian used the longevity secret art to madly absorb the energy inside. At the same time, he and the Crimson Dragon set off again. Not long after, another change occurred ahead. It was a powerful zombie. It quickly pounced over, but it wasn't completely human. There was even a pair of black wings on his back. What is this? Lin Xian was surprised. He then said to the Crimson Dragon, "Ruse along. I'll leave it to you. It's just a Batman. It's no big deal." The Crimson Dragon was very knowledgeable. It recognized the other party at a glance, so it waved its dragon claws and rushed over. Although the Batman's aura was stronger than the previous one, the battle ended quickly. The reason for that was because the dark red divine dragon had directly smeared the dragon's blood onto its dragon claw. With a single slap, it had smashed its opponent's head off. Puff! A pearl the size of a longan fell out of the other party's head. The Crimson Dragon grabbed it and swallowed it. Not bad, it tastes good. The Crimson Dragon grinned. Next, the two encountered many powerful zombies, but they were all killed by the two of them. The energy inside the zombies was also absorbed by them. Therefore, along the way, the aura of Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon increased rapidly. Finally, they arrived at the end of the cave. The cave was very wide, like a huge square. It was supported by countless stone pillars, and on top of the pillars, there were cryptic inscriptions carved on them. They flickered with a strange light. On the ground, there were also inscriptions, which were incomparably complicated. The source of these inscriptions all pointed forward. There was a black coffin, which was emitting a cold and gloomy aura. The coffin was very large, 5 meters long and 1 meter tall. At this moment, it was lying there quietly, like an ancient demonic mountain, making it difficult for people to breathe. Judging from its aura, it was definitely not an ordinary tomb. How is it? Is there anything special around it? What are these inscriptions for? Lin Xian asked. It was similar to a kind of inscription that gathered death chi for cultivation. It should have been set up by the person in the coffin when he was alive. Set it up when he was alive? Could it be that he still wanted to cultivate after he died? Lin Xian had a strange look on his face. Ghouls are very strange. I'm not too sure either, but let's open the coffin and take a look. Okay. The two of them discussed for a while, then carefully walked forward. The black coffin was very heavy. It was unknown what material it was made of. Its weight was heavier than 10 mountains. Lin Xian stretched out his hand, grabbed it, and lifted it up. Rumble, rumble, rumble. With a loud sound, the black coffin slowly opened. At the same time, Lin Xian was very careful, afraid that there would be an attack from inside. However, there was no danger. There was indeed a corpse inside. It was a middle-aged man, whose eyes were closed. He was 2 meters tall and wore luxurious clothes. Around him, there were dozens of gems, which were shining brightly. This is high-grade subdivine crystals. The Crimson Dragon exclaimed. It waved its dragon claws, quickly grabbed a few of them, and carefully examined them. Yes, they were indeed high-quality subdivine crystals. As a kind of energy crystal, subdivine crystals were naturally divided into different grades. The ones used by ordinary warriors were ordinary subdivine crystals. Above them, there were many subdivine crystals and supreme-grade subdivine crystals. Different grades had different amounts of energy contained in them. It was like the difference between low-grade, middle-grade, and high-grade spiritual stones. To be honest, Lin Xian had never seen a high-quality subdivine crystal before. It was also his first time seeing one. The subdivine crystals were like colored agates, shining brightly and emitting terrifying amounts of energy. Yeah, what's this? Lin Xian turned his eyes and stared at the middle-aged man's hand. The middle-aged man put his palms together and placed them flat on his body. However, Lin Xian's soul power was strong. He naturally discovered that there was something else in the man's hand. Using dragon-capturing hands, 2 real dragons rushed out and opened the man's hands. There was something similar to a jade pendant. It was half the size of a palm and was shining with mysterious light. Lin Xian waved his hand and immediately took the jade pendant in his hand. Finally, he looked at it carefully. What's this? He was very surprised. However, the Crimson Dragon glanced at it and exclaimed, Supreme-grade subdivine crystal. This is a supreme-grade subdivine crystal. Supreme-grade subdivine crystal? Lin Xian was also surprised. At this moment, the middle-aged man's corpse suddenly opened its eyes. Chapter 1564. There was a tinge of anger in his eyes and his calm face became ferocious. Not only that, but his body also started to change and red hair started to grow on his body. Oh no, the corpse is mutating. Seeing this, the Crimson Dragon's scalp went numb. With a wave of his dragon claws, he took away all the high-quality subdivine crystals. At the same time, he retreated rapidly. Lin Xian's body swayed as he retreated backward. He really couldn't figure out how the mysterious corpse that had been fine all this time had mutated. Could it be because of the subdivine crystals? However, there was no time for him to think about it. The corpse stood up and his eyes swept across the area like a rainbow. A black spatial crack appeared in the void. At this moment, his entire body was covered with red hair, and he looked extremely ferocious. He turned into a bolt of red lightning and charged at Lin Xian at high speed. Bang! He struck out with both palms and the force was earth-shattering. They landed heavily on Lin Xian and forced Lin Xian to retreat. So powerful! Lin Xian was shocked. He did not expect the mysterious demonic corpse to be so powerful. The palm strike was so terrifying that his blood was boiling, and he almost burst open. Fortunately, he had put up his defenses in advance and used the Red Lotus armor. Otherwise, he would have been more severely injured. Roar! Seeing that the palm strike did not kill Lin Xian, the mysterious demonic corpse roared angrily. The light in his eyes shone again, and he slashed at Lin Xian like 2 long knives. Lin Xian snorted, and his body shone with light. It formed a sharp sword chi and slashed forward. Clang! 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 The terrifying sword chi hit the mysterious demonic corpse and made clanging sounds and sparks. However, it could not break the mysterious demonic corpse's body. At the same time, the mysterious demonic corpse had arrived in front of Lin Xian. His palms were like ghost claws that slapped down quickly. You're courting death. Lin Xian snorted. He formed a seal with his palms and pushed them out. Suddenly, a golden heavenly rock appeared in his palms and rushed out. It collided with the mysterious demonic corpse's claws. This time, the mysterious demonic corpse was finally forced back. It let out a furious roar, and the red hair on its body fluttered like red flames. It was incomparably strange. With a wave of his hand, he tore through the void and formed dozens of sharp lights that slashed toward Lin Xian. Humph! Lin Xian directly used the dragon sword domain to envelop the other party. Suddenly, green sword chi surrounded the entire space. It was like a rain of swords, crazily slashing at the other party. The great dragon sword spirit roared within, emitting a dragon's roar. A terrifying aura permeated the heavens and the earth. For a moment, the entire void was boiling. Bang bang! The dragon sword domain was incomparably powerful. Even if the mysterious demonic corpse was powerful, it was still shaken to the point of continuously retreating. White scars appeared on his body. They were caused by the sword chi. There were even some places that had cracked open. However, not a single drop of blood flowed out. This situation was indeed extremely strange. Not only that, red hair began to grow out from the wounds, causing the wounds to rapidly heal. With a clap of his hands, it was like a demonic tablet that ruthlessly pressed down on Lin Xian. Lin Xian used the dragon sword domain. His body turned into a ray of light and instantly dodged. At the same time, the Crimson Dragon's attack also arrived. Countless dragon claws danced in the air, directly enveloping the mysterious demonic corpse. This attack caused a few more terrifying holes to appear on the mysterious demonic corpse's body. However, they were soon covered by the red hair again. Damn it! What the hell is this thing? Lin Xian's expression was ugly. He had never seen such a strange phenomenon, because if it was an ordinary king, he would have been killed under such an attack. However, this red-haired zombie seemed to have an immortal body. It was impossible to kill him. Try attacking his head, Heitu suggested. Head. Hearing this, the Crimson Dragon spat out a sea of fire. It turned into a long rainbow and instantly slashed at the other party's head. However, the mysterious zombie dodged it. As expected, it's his head. The Crimson Dragon was overjoyed. This was because the other party didn't dodge its previous attacks and used its powerful physique to resist. But this time, it actually dodged. This meant that the other party was afraid. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian was also overjoyed. He took out the 9-hell demonic sword, and his entire body emitted a sharp aura. With a furious roar, his aura could swallow mountains and rivers. The 9-hell demonic sword burst out with an incomparably terrifying light. The power was so strong that the entire void trembled. With a slash of the sword, a black sword chi slashed down from the sky. It was incomparably terrifying. The void split open as it ruthlessly slashed at the mysterious zombie's head. Wong. The mysterious zombie turned into a red afterimage and dodged back and forth in the cave, dodging the sword chi. However, this time, Lin Xian had already locked onto it. Roar. The red-haired zombie roared angrily, and a terrifying light burst out from its eyes. At the same time, the red hair on its body rapidly grew. It was like a red river that spiraled in front of its body, forming a powerful defense. Pong! A shocking sound rang out, and the red-haired zombie was sent flying. Not only that, the red hair on its body disappeared for the first time. Yes, that's right. It disappeared. Under Lin Xian's sword chi, it could not grow back at all. Seeing this scene, the red-haired zombie's eyes were filled with shock. It seemed that it did not expect someone to be able to injure it. On the other hand, Lin Xian's expression was grave. The other party's strength was too strong, and it seemed to have an indestructible body. It was impossible to kill it. Its strength was almost on par with a 4-star king. But fortunately, his great dragon sword soul was able to display its might at this moment, and it was able to destroy the red hair on its body. It seemed that killing the other party was only a matter of time. The red-haired zombie also felt the danger. It roared angrily and quickly waved its palms. For terrifying palm shadows shot out and bombarded the surrounding stone pillars. Wong wong. In the next moment, The stone pillars were like the pillars of gods and demons. The inscriptions on them flashed, and together with the inscriptions on the ground, they formed a strange formation. Not good. Damn that red-haired zombie. It actually knows how to make use of formations. The Crimson Dragon's expression changed. As a formation expert, he could naturally feel the terror of this formation. Even he could not break it in a short time. On the other hand, Lin Xian's expression was grave, and a bright light burst out from his eyes. The blood in his body began to boil. As the successor of the Great Dragon Sword, he had inherited the Great Dragon Sword's bravery and strength. He was not afraid of anything. At this moment, even though the red-haired zombie had activated the mysterious formation, it could not stop his shocking battle intent. The blood in his body surged like the roar of a dragon and the roar of a tiger. The Great Dragon Sword soul roared, and the Dragon Sword domain beside him was completely activated. A green domain quickly formed, resisting the surrounding formation. At this moment, Lin Xian was extremely powerful. He held the Nine Darkness demonic sword in his hand, and it was as if the sword demon had been reborn. Kill. With a furious roar, the Dragon Sword domain trembled. Countless sword chi swept out in all directions, each of them like a mountain. These sword chi slashed out in all directions, causing a huge commotion. In an instant, the surrounding inscriptions were destroyed. Chapter 1565. Bang! The formation that had just been formed also shattered in an instant. All the strange scenes and terrifying auras disappeared. Only the green sword chi was left in the air. The red-haired zombie's expression changed drastically when he saw this scene. He couldn't imagine what kind of power could destroy his formation in an instant. One had to know that this formation was very strange and impossible to destroy. However, a human youth in front of him had actually destroyed it. Moreover, he had destroyed it so easily. He couldn't believe it. Although the red-haired zombie couldn't speak, he obviously had the intelligence of a human. His gaze was uncertain, and his heart was filled with shock. In fact, the sword Dao aura emitted by the other party caused his body to begin to tremble. However, he wouldn't sit still and wait for death. In the next moment, he roared angrily, and a bright light burst out from his eyes. Then, the red hair all over his body began to burn, forming balls of red flames that completely enveloped his body. Oh no, he's going to go all out. Be careful, the Crimson Dragon exclaimed. Sure enough, in the next moment, the red-haired zombie turned into a ray of light and instantly charged towards Lin Xian. Let's end this. Lin Xian shouted coldly and raised his combat strength to the limit. Then, he waved the ninth Hell Demon sword and stabbed out. Azure Dragon Break. A wisp of black sword light instantly charged forward like a dragon. This move was very terrifying as it directly attacked the red-haired zombie's head. Instantly, the red-haired zombie's head exploded, and its entire body fell to the ground with a bang. There was no blood, but the surrounding cold aura had disappeared. Moreover, the red hair on the zombie's body also quickly disappeared, and finally drilled into its body and disappeared. In addition, a red crystal core fell out of the zombie's body. That was the source of the zombie's energy. Great! Lin Xian retracted his hand and held the red crystal core in his hand. He was extremely happy. The red-haired zombie's strength was close to that of a 4-star king. It was extremely powerful. If he could absorb all the energy inside, he believed that he should be able to break through to the 2-star king realm. Therefore, he didn't leave immediately. Instead, he sat down cross-legged and held the supreme-grade subdivine crystal in one hand and the red crystal core in the other. He used the longevity art to quickly absorb the energy. On the other side, Dark Red Shenlong was cleaning up the battlefield, collecting all the valuable items in the cave. Then, he started to absorb those high-quality subdivinity crystals. At this moment, Lin Xian's secret art of longevity was circulating madly, displaying a powerful and mysterious power. The energy from the top-quality substandard divine crystal and the red crystal core was like a torrential river. It unceasingly poured into Lin Xian's body, cleansing his meridians. Boom! A low voice sounded, and then Lin Xian's aura suddenly soared. Originally, His cultivation base had already reached the late stage of one-star king realm. Moreover, along the way, he had continuously killed zombies and absorbed their crystal cores. His cultivation base had also increased rapidly and had already reached a critical point. Now, with the supreme grade substandard divine crystal and the red crystal core, his cultivation had finally reached the 2-star king realm. So strong. Feeling the energy within his body, Lin Xian was overjoyed. After breaking through to the 2-star king realm, his strength had increased greatly. If he were to face the red-haired zombie now, he would probably be able to kill it in a few moves. Moreover, his current strength was still equivalent to a 4-star king. He was even confident that he could defeat core disciples like Lu Chao. It seemed like it was time to find an opportunity to become a core disciple. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. He decided that when he returned to the sect, he would find Chu Yu and see if there was any way for him to become a core disciple as soon as possible. Only by becoming a core disciple would he be able to find out more about the Niwa of Gojoseon. On the other side, the Crimson Dragon had absorbed all the high-quality subdivinity crystals. His cultivation base had also recovered and increased by another level. Now, he had also reached the 2-star king realm. The dragon blood in his body was surging like a furnace of heaven and earth, emitting a rumbling sound. Haha, I recovered some more. The Crimson Dragon laughed. It wouldn't take long for Bin Huang to recover his full strength. Lin Xian also laughed and said, "Since there's nothing left here, let's go." Thus, the two turned around and flew outside. At the same time, outside the cave, several figures flew toward them at lightning speed. "Senior Brother Lu, we've received news that there seems to be a tomb here." "Yes, I've heard that there are many treasures inside. We spent a lot of money to get this information." A few voices sounded. It turned out that these people were Lu Chao and the others. They had also found this cave and flew over. Soon, Lu Chao and the others descended from the sky and were about to enter the cave. However, at this moment, two black figures flew out from the cave. Whoosh! "Who's there?" "Stand still." Lu Chao waved his hand. Instantly, a terrifying palm image pressed downwards. He had come to the cave to look for treasures. How could he not be shocked when two figures flew out of the cave? He had to stop them and investigate. Indeed, under the palm shadow, the two figures that came out of the cave stopped. "What? It's you." Lu Chao and the others were stunned for a moment because they realized that they knew the people who came out of the cave. That's right, it was Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon who came out. Lin Xian was also stunned. He did not expect to meet Lu Chao and the others at the entrance of the cave. "How dare you? Who allowed you to go in?" "Presumptuous. Hand over all the treasures you've obtained inside. Otherwise, I'll make sure you crawl out today." A few inner sect disciples beside Lu Chao shouted coldly. They did not take Lin Xian seriously at all because they were elite inner sect disciples and were very powerful. The other party was just a newcomer and could not fight against them at all. "Who do you think you are? How dare you have designs on me? Get lost while I'm in a good mood. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Lin Xian snorted coldly. He had broken through to a 2-star king and was very imposing. "Presumptuous. You're courting death." Those inner sect disciples were furious. They did not expect Lin Xian to dare to talk back to them. They really did not know what was good for them. Lu Chao also snorted coldly. "Brat, I let you go earlier because of the urgency of the matter. I didn't expect you to be so arrogant in front of me. It seems like I can't let you live today. Humph, you're really arrogant. Do you think you can kill whoever you want?" Lin Xian sneered. "Let me tell you, I've obtained 2 supreme-grade subdivine crystals and countless treasures in this cave. Come and snatch them if you dare." "What? Supreme-grade subdivine crystals?" Hearing this, those inner sect disciples were shocked. Then, their eyes were filled with a fiery glow. Supreme-grade subdivine crystals were extremely powerful sources of energy. If they could obtain them, they would definitely be able to raise their cultivation level again. They might even be able to break through. Even Lu Chao's eyes were shining. Chapter 1566. He hadn't expected that Lin Fan would actually have such a fortuitous encounter and obtained 2 supreme-grade subdivine crystals. But soon after, he started laughing wildly. Kid, I have to say that you're really stupid. You actually dared to say that you obtained such a treasure? But very good, he's mine now. Hand over the supreme-grade subdivine crystals obediently, kneel at the side, and wait for my punishment. Hand it over? That's impossible. I've already absorbed it. Lin Xian shrugged. Don't even think about it. You won't be able to obtain a supreme-grade subdivine crystal in your lifetime. Get the hell out of here. What? You're courting death. Those inner court disciples went crazy, and their hearts ached. On the other hand, Lu Chao's face sank, and his eyes shone with a terrifying light. He stared fixedly at Lin Xian, and then he frowned. As expected, you've broken through to the 2-star king realm. What a piece of trash. 2 supreme-grade subdivine crystals only increased your cultivation by so little? Kid, you dare waste my supreme-grade subdivine crystals? I'll definitely kill you. You've just absorbed them, so there's probably still dense energy remaining in your blood. Even if I can't absorb the supreme-grade subdivine crystals, I'll still absorb the energy in your blood. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Chao stretched out his palm, and it was like 5 sharp blades that swiftly slapped towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted coldly and raised his fist to meet the attack. His terrifying fist was like an enormous mountain as it swiftly blasted out. At the same time, he sent a voice transmission. Ruzalong, I'll leave those inner court disciples to you. Don't let a single one of them go. Don't worry, it's a piece of cake. The Crimson Dragon grinned, and his body was like a red bolt of lightning that swiftly charged over. Bang! A shocking strike caused a huge explosion in space, and then 2 figures swiftly retreated. Lu Chao took 5 steps back and stabilized his body, but he was extremely shocked. His eyes were filled with astonishment, and he didn't dare accept the reality before his eyes. Lin Fan was a newcomer that had just entered the inner court and was only a 2-star king. But he'd blocked his attack? This was something that he'd never imagined. Because in his opinion, the other party was merely an ant. He only needed to use a finger to crush the other party to death. Therefore, he had never taken the other party seriously. But now, not only had his opponent blocked his attack, he had even forced him to retreat. If he hadn't experienced it himself, he wouldn't have believed it even if he was beaten to death. It was simply impossible for a 2-star king to contend against a 4-star king. Behind him, the few inner sect disciples widened their eyes as if they had seen a ghost. Damn it, what's going on? How could he block senior brother Lu Chao's attack? Dream. I must be dreaming. They shook their heads in disbelief. However, at this moment, the Crimson Dragon flew over and waved its claws. Hee hee, ants, you should worry about yourselves first. You're courting death. A 4-horned snake dares to be arrogant in front of us? Catch him, peel his skin, cook him, and eat him. Several inner sect disciples were infuriated. They all used their unique skills to attack the Crimson Dragon. Bang, bang, bang. There were a few more thunderous sounds. Then, several inner sect disciples spat out blood and were sent flying. Their eyes were filled with shock. They couldn't believe that a 4-horned snake could send all of them flying so easily. What's going on? Are these 2 people humans or ghosts? How could they have such powerful strength? Seeing the inner sect disciples spitting out blood, Lu Chao's face turned even uglier. He gritted his teeth and said, Good, good, good. Kid, I underestimated you. But do you think you can be arrogant just because you blocked one of my attacks? Let me tell you, you're too naive. I'll let you know how powerful I really am. Now, it seems like Fongli was killed by you too. Lin Xian snorted. So what? Not only am I going to kill him, but I'm going to kill you too. Kill me? You're dreaming. Go to hell. Lu Chao roared. His face was ferocious, and a cold, murderous aura shot into the air. Boundless flames surrounded him, making him look like the god of fire. He waved his hand, and a red cauldron appeared in the air. There were 2 lifelike fire dragons circling around it. With a wave of his hand, boundless flames gathered and formed a fire dragon that roared incomparably. A terrifying heat wave covered the sky as if the entire sky had turned into a sea of fire. The fire dragon roared and charged toward Lin Xian. The entire void was left with boundless magma as if it had been cut open. Lin Xian was in the dragon sword's spiritual domain, and it was empty. He emitted a sharp aura like a peerless god of war. Whoosh! He turned into a sword light and dodged the fire dragon's attack. At the same time, he clenched his hand and summoned a small black cauldron. 10,000 beast ding. It was a true earth-grade weapon. In the past, Lin Xian's cultivation was too low to unleash its true power. Now that he was a 2-star king, he had the strength to unleash 10,000 beast ding. The palm shadows kept slapping, and the 10,000 beast ding trembled and emitted a black light. One after another, rare beasts swam on it. Woo-woo. Roar. It was as if 10,000 beasts were roaring at the same time, emitting a terrifying aura. In a trance, there were countless demonic beast phantoms circling around. With a flick of his finger, a black light condensed and formed a large hand of death that slapped forward. Bang! With a shocking blow, the large black palm covered the sky and directly slapped the fire dragon, breaking it. Boom boom. Flames splattered everywhere, and the void was dyed red. What? It's broken. On the opposite side, Lu Chao's pupils constricted. If it was a coincidence that Lin Xian pushed him back the first time, this time, it was definitely not a coincidence that the other party broke his attack again. This time, he even used his own weapon. It could be said that he was going all out. However, the other party was still able to block it. Damn it! How is this possible? How can this kid have such powerful combat strength? Lu Chao roared and instantly activated his king's domain. Immediately, a fiery red domain shrouded him. The terrifying domain distorted the entire void as if it had become a real sea of fire. Kill! Lu Chao roared and charged toward Lin Xian quickly with the Red King's domain. Soon, he collided with the large black palm. Immediately, the black palm shattered into pieces, unable to resist. Humph, kid. So what if your weapon is powerful? In terms of domains, you are no match for me at all. At this moment, Lu Chao was very confident. He was a 4-star king, and his domain was already very terrifying. It was definitely not something that a 2-star king could contend against. He had already seen that the other party was able to break his attack earlier because of the small black cauldron. Other than that, the other party would definitely not be able to break his attack. It's good to be confident, but stupid is not good. You clearly belong to the stupid category. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Is your domain very strong? Watch me break it. Chapter 1567. As soon as he finished speaking, the dragon's sword realm quickly appeared beside him. Suddenly, tens of thousands of sword chi pierced through the sky, and the entire void seemed to have become a killing ground. The monstrous aura stirred up the clouds as if it could kill gods and demons. What? This sword chi? Lu Chao felt the sword chi emitted by the dragon's sword realm, and his face changed drastically. To be honest, he had never felt such a sharp sword chi, even though he was far away and had the protection of the king realm. However, he was still able to sense the killing intent brought about by the sword aura. The hair on his body stood on end. Damn it, how can his realm be so strong? I don't believe it. Lu Chao gritted his teeth and crazily activated the Red King realm. Suddenly, endless flames shot up into the sky, and 8 fire dragons circled around his body as they quickly charged forward. Mirror still water. Lin Xian was expressionless. He waved his hand, and the dragon's sword realm trembled. Countless sword chi circled around, forming a huge sword screen. It was like a mirror, incomparably bright and clean. The 8 fire dragons carried monstrous heat waves as they fiercely collided with the mirror. Immediately, all of them were bounced back. What? All of them were bounced back? How is this possible? Lu Chao was shocked and couldn't believe it. The few inner disciples below had already widened their eyes as if they had seen a ghost. Everyone knew how terrifying Lu Chao was. Among the inner disciples, no one was a match for him. Even among the core disciples, he was one of the stronger ones. But now, A newcomer who had just entered the inner sect was actually able to compete with Lu Chao and even suppress him. This made them unable to believe it. Impossible. Damn it, I don't believe it. How can you be so strong? Lu Chao's hair was disheveled, and his face was ferocious. I can only say that you were ignorant. Originally, I had no enmity with you, but you tried to kill me time and time again. So, you only have yourself to blame. Now, it's all over. Lin Xian pulled out the 9 darkness demon sword, and tens of thousands of sword chi circled around him. He was like a sword demon, incomparably terrifying. It's over? Impossible. I still have many secret techniques, and I still have pills to increase my strength. Kid, let me tell you, my methods are not something you can imagine. As long as I don't hesitate to increase my strength, I can even compete with a 5-star king. What do you have to fight me? Today, I will teach you how to kill. After saying that, Lu Chao flipped his palm. Immediately, 2 red pills appeared in his palm. As long as he swallowed 2 red pills, he would be able to stimulate the potential in his body and temporarily obtain great power. However, Lin Xian's expression was ice-cold. He held the 9 Serenity's demonic sword and quickly moved it in the air. Underworld Dao waning moonbreak. With a wave of his sword, an invisible force condensed in the air. Crack, crack. A black crack appeared in the air. It was incomparably terrifying and emitted a strange aura. It was as if a peerless demon had opened its terrifying mouth and was about to devour everything. In the next moment, the spatial crack enveloped Lu Chao's figure. With a miserable shriek, Lu Chao was sucked into the black crack and disappeared. Soon after, the pitch-black crack began to slowly heal. The sky regained its clarity, but Lu Chao's figure had already disappeared. Only the remnant energy still lingered in the surroundings. What happened? Below, a few inner sect disciples saw this scene and looked at each other. But after waiting for a long time, they did not see Lu Chao again. This gave them a bad premonition. What did you do to Brother Chao? A few of them asked in horror. He was no longer in this world. Lin Xian shook his head coldly. The move just now had directly cut open the void and connected to the void. Lu Chao was exiled by him and could not return at all. This outcome was even more terrifying than being killed. You are a demon, not a human. A few inner sect disciples felt their skin crawl and turned around to run. Want to run? Hee hee. The Crimson Dragon sneered. Then, he opened his mouth and spat out several red rays of light that pierced through a few of them. With a wave of his dragon claw, a terrifying dragon flame gushed out and burned the corpses to ashes. After doing all this, he stopped and returned to Lin Xian's side. Let's go. It's about time to go back. All right then, let's go to the other mountains next time. The Crimson Dragon glanced into the distance. Indeed, strictly speaking, they had not entered Feng Mountain yet. They were only at the periphery. Therefore, there were not many people around. It seemed that the real Feng Mountain and the great ancient tomb would be even more terrifying than the previous cave. The 2 of them turned into lightning and flew into the sky and disappeared. Lu Chao's incident had caused a stir in the sect. After all, he was a core disciple and was quite strong. This kind of person was the elite of Danzong's disciples. However, after the alchemy sect investigated, they did not discover who did it. Moreover, the culprit disappeared in Feng Mountain. It was very likely that another sect or some existence in the great ancient tomb had done it. Therefore, the sect could only give up on investigating. On the other hand, Lin Xian had also returned to Danzong. He stayed for a few days and then prepared to look for Chu Yu. He now knew that Chu Yu was also a core disciple. However, what surprised him was that Chu Yu's cultivation had not reached the level of a 4-star king. However, to be able to become a core disciple meant that Chu Yu's attainments in alchemy were extraordinary. However, in the past few days, he found out that Chu Yu was not only a core disciple, but also an extremely powerful one among the core disciples. Personal disciple. That's right, Chu Yu was the personal disciple of Elder Danzong. His status was even more honorable than a core disciple like Lu Chao. Lin Xian finally understood why the other party could arrange for him to enter Danzong so easily. It turned out that he was a personal disciple. However, this was even better. He believed that the other party must have a way to promote him and make him a core disciple. The alchemy sect was located in the middle of a mountain range. The inner and core disciples were not on the same mountain. Therefore, Lin Xian had to fly away from the inner disciples to the core disciples' residence. After flying for about half an hour, he lowered his body and arrived at the foot of the mountain. Just as he was about to enter, a cold shout suddenly came from the front. "Stop!" This voice was like a clap of thunder. It was abnormally terrifying and caused the void to tremble. Hearing this voice, Lin Xian frowned, but he still stopped. Soon, 6 disciples flew over from afar like rainbows. "Who are you? How dare you trespass into the core disciples' residence? Aren't you afraid of being killed? This is not a place where you can enter. Leave quickly. You misunderstand. I'm here to look for someone," Lin Xian said slowly. "Look for someone? Who is it?" The guards asked coldly. They were not core disciples and were only guards in charge of guarding this place. However, their status and strength had already surpassed most of the inner disciples. They were very powerful. Therefore, apart from the core disciples, they did not take anyone seriously. Chapter 1568. "I'm looking for Chuyu," Lin Xian said indifferently. Chuyu. Hearing this, their expressions changed. Clearly, they knew Chuyu's identity. Fairy Chuyu is a personal disciple. Why are you looking for her? That's right. How could a mere inner disciple know a personal disciple? Kid, I advise you not to lie. Otherwise, you'll end up in a miserable state. Whether I know Chuyu or not, wouldn't you know once you report to her? Lin Xian's expression was calm. If it were an ordinary inner disciple, they would probably be trembling in fear when facing these guards. However, he wouldn't. No matter how strong they were only 3-star kings. As for him, he was someone who could even kill a 4-star king. Therefore, Lin Xian didn't take these guards seriously. Report to you? The guard's lips curled into a cold smile. Kid, we're very busy. We don't have time to report to you. You'd better come another day. Hearing this, Lin Xian frowned. What were they busy with? They obviously wanted to get some benefits from him. However, Lin Xian didn't plan to give these people any benefits. He snorted. What? You want to extort me? Aren't you afraid that I'll report this to the sect? Report to the sect? Then go report it. See if the sect will believe you? The guards sneered. Clearly, they often did this kind of thing. Is that so? If the sect doesn't care, then what about Chuyu? Let me tell you, I'm looking for Fairy Chuyu because of an urgent matter. If it's delayed, can you bear the consequences? When the time comes and Fairy Chuyu punishes you, I'm afraid you'll end up worse than me. Lin Xian said slowly. You dare threaten us? Kid, you're courting death. The guards were furious. One of them even snorted coldly and waved his sleeve. Immediately, a huge force surged toward Lin Xian. A mere inner disciple dares to behave atrociously in front of us? You're courting death. Today, I'll teach you a good lesson. I'll let you know what kind of attitude you should have in front of me. The sleeve trembled, and like a floating cloud, it suddenly grew larger in the wind. It was like a cage of heaven and earth that was about to suck Lin Xian in. This was a very terrifying skill called the Heaven and Earth Sleeve. It was rumored that when it was refined to the extreme, it could swallow the heavens and absorb the earth. Of course, it was impossible for the guardian disciple before him to achieve such a feat, however. Collecting the mountains and rivers was not an issue for him at all. The terrifying sleeve enveloped Lin Xian and was about to swallow him whole. Lin Xian snorted coldly. With a flick of his finger, several streaks of sharp sword chi surged out, transforming into a long river that soared into the clouds. Pung pung pung. That terrifying heaven and earth sleeve was instantly slashed by the sword chi and instantly exploded. In an instant, the terrifying scene disappeared. The guardian disciple even took a few steps back, his face extremely ugly. Above his wrist, the wide sleeves were already shattered. His face was ferocious as he stared at Lin Xian. The surrounding guardian disciples also had ferocious expressions. They did not expect that a mere inner disciple would be so powerful that he could destroy the heaven and earth sleeve with a raise of his hand. How dare you behave atrociously here? Take him down. With a furious roar, the remaining guardian disciples immediately moved, wanting to capture Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted coldly. With a flash of his palm, the dragon sword realm quickly flew out. In an instant, it completely enveloped the remaining 5 guardian disciples. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The sword chi was like a rainbow, incomparably sharp and filled with monstrous killing intent. Countless sword chi surged and surrounded the 5 guardian disciples. As long as they moved, they would be pierced by the sword chi, and hundreds and thousands of holes would appear on their bodies. Immediately, the guardian disciples were stunned, and their faces were extremely ugly. They did not expect that the other party could actually subdue all of them in an instant. One had to know that they were all 3-star kings, and the other party's aura was only that of a 2-star king. How was this possible? Even the strongest inner sect disciples wouldn't be able to do something like this, right? However, they had all seen the strongest few people. But the young man in front of them was incomparably unfamiliar. It was obvious that he had just joined the inner sect. That was why they were so arrogant before, but they did not expect that they would almost be killed. Thinking of this, cold sweat dripped down their bodies, and they no longer dared to be presumptuous in front of Lin Xian. Stop, let's talk nicely. We were wrong before, we apologize to you. We'll go report for you now. The few of them hurriedly apologized. They had no choice. If they dared to say anything else, the sword chi would probably kill them immediately. Hearing this, Lin Xian snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, he removed the dragon sword realm. Soon, the few guardian disciples left to report the news. However, Chu Yu did not come out. Instead, a young man in a blue robe walked out. Fairy Chu Yu is in seclusion refining a kind of pill, so she can't split herself. Since you want to find her, I'll bring you in, the blue-clothed young man said coldly. Moreover, he carefully sized up Lin Xian. When he saw the identity of the disciple and the cultivation of a 2-star king, a slight hint of disdain appeared at the corner of his mouth. All right, Lin Xian nodded. He did not expect that the person who came out was not Chu Yu, but someone he did not know at all. Looking at the other party's arrogant expression and strong aura, there was no need to think to know that he should be a core disciple. However, he did not care about the other party's attitude, as long as the other party could bring him in. Nodding, Lin Xian followed the blue-clothed young man into the mountain range where the core disciples lived. As soon as they entered, the blue-clothed young man walked in front with large strides and said coldly, "This is where the core disciples live, far surpassing your inner sect. There are formations everywhere here, and there are even traps in some places. It can be said that one wrong step will consign you to eternal damnation. With your strength and identity, you don't have the qualifications to enter this place. However, I'll bring you in for Chu Yu's sake. However, you have to know your limits and follow me closely. Don't wander around. Do you hear me clearly?" The blue-clothed young man said coldly. However, Lin Xian did not answer. Instead, he sped up and walked side by side with the blue-clothed young man. "Don't worry, I have some understanding of formations. There shouldn't be any danger." Lin Xian looked around and said indifferently, "Even if there is any danger, I can deal with it." Hearing this, the blue-clothed young man's face darkened. In his opinion, Lin Xian was too arrogant and did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. A small inner sect disciple with a cultivation of only a 2-star king actually dared to boast that he was proficient in formations and could even resist the formations here? The array formation here was no ordinary array formation. Each of them was extremely terrifying, and inner sect disciples could not withstand them at all. Even if it was a core disciple, if they accidentally entered, it would be very troublesome. Chapter 1569. However, core disciples were very familiar with the surrounding terrain, so under normal circumstances, they would not enter these formations. "Kid, it seems that you're very confident in yourself. Since that's the case, I'm relieved." The man in blue sneered, his eyes full of disdain. He did not believe Lin Xian's words at all. Therefore, he planned to teach him a lesson and let him know what it meant to be arrogant. In the next moment, The man in blue's figure swayed, and he could not help but speed up. Like a bolt of blue lightning, he instantly disappeared on the spot and walked forward. Soon, he arrived at a safe place. Proficient in formations? Can you handle it? Humph, what an idiot. Let me see how you're going to pass through the formations and traps there. The man in blue raised a disdainful smile, because in his opinion, the other party would not be able to walk out at all. If he left, he would probably fall into the formation very quickly. At that time, he wanted to see if the other party could still be arrogant. The man in blue revealed a sinister smile. To be honest, if the other party was not looking for Chuyu, he would have slapped the other party to death. Is that so? I think senior brother is overthinking. Are the formations here as magical as you say? At this moment, a light voice was heard. Hearing this voice, the man in blue jumped in fright. He suddenly turned around and found Lin Xian standing not far away from him. Immediately, his eyes widened as if he had seen a ghost. How is this possible? How is this possible? How could he walk out of those formations and traps so quickly? One had to know that he had displayed his powerful speed just now. No one below 4-star King could keep up with him. However, the other party had arrived here at almost the same time as him. It was too strange. Lin Xian saw the other party's shocked expression, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, revealing a mocking smile. Then, he said indifferently, "Senior brother, let's go. I have something important to talk to Fairy Chuyu about." Humph. Seeing the other party's disdainful smile, the man in blue's face became gloomy. His eyes flickered with a trace of killing intent. To be honest, he had never been so embarrassed before. Moreover, it was in front of a small inner sect disciple. This made him want to kill him. However, after thinking for a moment, he gave up in the end, because he didn't know what the relationship between this kid and Chuyu was. Chuyu was a personal disciple. Her status was even higher than that of a core disciple. If he really killed her now, Chuyu would blame him. At that time, he would be the unlucky one. The blue-clothed young man snorted again and said coldly, "Come with me." In the end, he brought Lin Xian to the mountain peak where Chuyu lived. Fairy Chuyu is inside. You can wait outside. After saying that, he turned into a blue light and left without looking back. Lin Xian clasped his hands behind his back and looked ahead curiously. The mountains and rivers were clear, just like a fairyland. It was indeed a good place to live and cultivate. This treatment is really different. Lin Xian sighed. He only had a single courtyard, but the core disciples all had their own mountain peaks. This was a world of difference. With a flicker, Lin Xian arrived at the peak of the mountain. There were several palaces in front of him, but he didn't enter. Instead, he found an ancient tree and sat down cross-legged to cultivate. About 2 hours later, a strange fragrance came from the palaces in front of him. The fragrance was very strong. When one smelled it, one would feel the spiritual energy in one's body boil. This is a pill fragrance. Lin Xian opened his eyes and revealed a trace of surprise. He could imagine that it was definitely not an ordinary pill. Otherwise, it wouldn't have caused such a strange fragrance. A profound pill. It looks like it's at least a mid-grade profound pill. Lin Xian was shocked. Profound pills were pills used by kings. They were divided into 4 grades: basic, mid-grade, high-grade, and supreme grade. Different grades had different effects. Generally, people below 3-star kings would only use basic-grade profound pills. It was very rare to encounter a mid-grade profound pill. After all, even though it was just a difference of 1 word, a mid-grade profound pill was very difficult to refine. With Lin Xian's current state, the failure rate was very high. However, he didn't expect that Chuyu would actually succeed. He had to admit that it really surprised him. Soon, the pill fragrance disappeared. Then, the doors of the palaces in front of him slowly opened, and a beautiful figure walked in. It was a tall and slender woman. She wore an aqua-green robe. Her skin was fair, and her face was exquisite. She looked like a fairy. There was still a faint fragrance on her body. Congratulations on successfully refining a mid-grade profound pill. Lin Xian walked up and said with a smile, Why are you here?" Seeing the person in front of him, Chuyu was stunned for a moment, then smiled. I didn't expect that not only are you strong, but your eyesight is also very sharp. You can tell at a glance that I'm refining a mid-grade profound pill. Don't laugh at me. I'm just a small inner disciple now. How can I compare to you? A direct disciple. Come in. Chuyu rolled his eyes and waved his hand. Then, Lin Xian walked in. How is it? Are you used to living in Danzong? Chuyu asked. It's okay, but it's not as comfortable as you core disciples. Of course. Chuyu smiled. The status of a core disciple and an inner disciple are completely different. It's like the difference between heaven and earth. Then, she asked suspiciously, No way, you're thinking about becoming a core disciple again? That's right, that's why I came to find you. Heavens, how many days have you been in the inner sect? Only a month? You want to become a core disciple already? That's too fast, isn't it? I'm afraid this has never happened in the history of Danzong. Chuyu was shocked. However, Lin Xian smiled and said, It didn't happen in the past, but it doesn't mean it won't happen in the future. Also, I heard that some core disciples have disappeared. I don't know if they're dead or alive. I'm afraid they won't be coming back. Do you have any way to prevent me from becoming a core disciple? Lin Xian asked. Okay. After a while, Chuyu came back to her senses. Indeed, Lu Chao of the core disciples disappeared in Fengshan. I don't think he'll be coming back. So, it's certain that a new core disciple will be chosen, and it's probably something that happened recently. I have to say, you're really lucky. You've just arrived, and you've already encountered something like this. One had to know that under normal circumstances, an inner sect disciple might not encounter something like this even after 8 to 10 years. Lin Xian only smiled, but in his heart, he muttered, How can I not be lucky? Lu Chao was killed by me. A core disciple, a 4-star king. With such a terrifying status and strength, no one would dare to provoke him. Not to mention 8 to 10 years, he might not even die in a few decades. Lu Chao deserved it. Daring to provoke him was simply courting death. Chapter 1570. At this moment, Chuyu said again, according to past experience, whenever there's a vacancy in the core disciple position, the top 10 inner disciples will be selected to compete. The winner will become the new core disciple. I think this time will be no exception. Top 10 inner disciples? Hearing this, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. Can you give me a spot? Chuyu smiled. I've helped you so much. What do you have to give me? Elixir recipe. Elixir recipe? Chuyu was confused. This is Danzong. There are countless elixir recipes. I'm a direct disciple. I can have any elixir recipe I want. You're fooling me with this condition. What if it's an ancient elixir recipe? Lin Xian smiled. What? Ancient elixir recipe? You have an ancient elixir recipe? Chuyu was shocked. Then, she quickly asked, What grade is it? Middle grade Xian elixir. Chuyu sucked in a breath of cold air. Lin Xian smiled. I can give it to you now. He flipped his palm and took out a jade slip. However, Chuyu received the jade slip and quickly examined it. After a while, she smiled. Yes, it's an ancient elixir recipe. It's a mid-grade Xian elixir. Where did you get such a good thing? Chuyu asked curiously. Even in Danzong, there weren't many ancient elixir recipes. It was good to have one more. Lin Xian smiled and said, I found it in an ancient ruin. You could say that it was a coincidence. Of course, he was lying. He had many elixir recipes like this. The inheritance of the Niwa of Gojoseon wasn't very useful to him now. However, he still had Lord Alcohol. Moreover, the 4th-generation successor of the Dragon Sword had collected many elixir recipes. Therefore, he had a lot of elixir recipes. Then I'll accept it. On the other side, Chuyu happily accepted the elixir recipe. Then, she said, Don't worry about the challenge. I'll arrange it for you. However, I must remind you that the battle this time around will likely be very intense. Because becoming a core disciple is equivalent to a carp leaping through the dragon's gate. Therefore, those inner disciples will fight for it with their lives. That's not a problem. I'm confident, Lin Xian said calmly. Indeed, no matter if it was battle prowess or alchemy, he had absolute confidence in both. All right then, I'll let you know when there's news. Chu Yu nodded. As a direct disciple, her strength was frighteningly great. Thus, this kind of matter was still within her capabilities. After that, Lin Xin left. On the other side, the entire inner sect was in an uproar because the news was spreading everywhere. That was to choose a new core disciple. It wasn't a secret that core disciple Lu Chao had disappeared. Everyone in Danzong knew about it. The ones who were the most excited were, of course, the inner court disciples. This was especially true for the top inner sect disciples. Normally, they would not have the opportunity to become core disciples. However, things were different now. Now that they were short of a core disciple, the sect would definitely quickly replenish them. The core disciple would be chosen among the inner court disciples. Of course, the ordinary inner court disciples had no hope at all. They could only watch the show. Only the top inner court disciples had a chance to fight for it. This is so exciting. The core disciple selection this time will probably be the fiercest battle in the sect. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen such an intense battle. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Indeed. However, thinking about it, the one who has the highest chance of becoming an inner court disciple must be Qi Yu. He's widely acknowledged as the #1 inner court disciple. However, Luo Yuan is also quite powerful. I heard that his cultivation has improved greatly recently. Perhaps he might even surpass Qi Yu. Yeah, and my goddess Luo Shi. Her alchemy skills are unparalleled, and her strength is superb. She will definitely become a core disciple. Everyone was discussing animatedly. Lin Xian happened to pass by. When he heard these names, he raised his eyebrows. They should be the strongest among the inner court disciples. However, he didn't care. With his current strength, he didn't need to care about anyone. As expected, 6 days later, the news of a new core disciple selection was officially announced by the sect. Suddenly, the entire inner court was in an uproar. At the same time, Lin Xian received a letter from Chu Yu. The letter stated that he had obtained the qualification to participate in the core disciple selection. After receiving the news, Lin Xian smiled. He could finally become a core disciple. That way, he would be able to learn some secrets about the Danzong. Moreover, the core disciples had a very high status. They had the power to decide life and death. Some of the more powerful core disciples were actually not inferior to the elders. If he could obtain the position of a core disciple, it would be a good thing for Lin Xian. As for the other inner court disciples, they gathered at the side to look at the names. Qi Yu, Luo Yuan, and Luo Shi one by one. Familiar names appeared in front of them. That's right, the top 10. They are indeed the top 10 inner court disciples. I knew it. Everyone nodded. It was the same in the past. The top 10 inner court disciples competed for a core disciple position. However, they were soon stunned, because they found the 11th person at the bottom of the list. Lin Xian. Who is Lin Xian? Is he famous? I don't know. I've never heard of him. We all know the famous geniuses in the inner court, but we've never heard of Lin Xian. Who is he? For a moment, everyone was very confused and started discussing. Obviously, they could not understand this name that suddenly appeared. However, soon, someone said, "Oh right, wasn't there an inner court disciple who just entered a month ago? I think his name is Lin Xian." What? A new inner court disciple who just entered a month ago? Lin Xian? Everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. God, what kind of joke is this? A newcomer can enter the core disciple selection list? How is that possible? Yeah, could it be the same name? Maybe the sect made a mistake. Yeah, there were only 10 people before. Why are there 11 now? And it's a newcomer. This doesn't make sense. Everyone was discussing. However, in the end, they found that the sect did not make a mistake. Moreover, it was the newcomer who had just entered the inner court a month ago. Suddenly, everyone was in an uproar. The entire inner court was in an uproar. They could not understand how a newcomer who had just entered the inner court could be on the list. I heard that Lin Xian was promoted directly when he entered the inner court. It seems that he has some background. So what if he has a background? This time, he was promoted to a core disciple. It's not as simple as entering the inner court. Chapter 1571. The top 10 geniuses all have powerful backgrounds. Most of them have core disciples behind them, and some even have elders behind them. That's right. Even if there is one more person, it shouldn't be Lin Xian. The top 15 are all qualified to enter. But why is it a newbie? Everyone was dissatisfied with the decision. However, this was the sect's decision, and they could not change it. The crowd snorted. What's the point of being on the list? If he's not strong enough, he'll still be eliminated. That's right. He just entered the inner sect for a month. How powerful can he be? The last time I saw him, he was only a one-star king. What? Only a one-star king? That's not even as strong as me. Haha, I really want to see Lin Xian get beaten black and blue in the arena. Why bother? With his cultivation, he'll just humiliate himself. Everyone sneered. However, in the crowd, when Zhou Hai and the others saw this, their eyes widened in shock. They had seen Lin Xian's methods and knew that Lin Xian was not as simple as he looked. One had to know that even the extremely terrifying Feng Li had been killed by Lin Xian with ease. Therefore, they believed that Lin Xian would be able to participate in the core disciple competition. However, only a few of them believed him. Most of the others were sneering and jealous. Therefore, none of them thought highly of Lin Xian. As for the top 10 inner disciples, after hearing the news, they sneered, their eyes filled with disdain. None of them took Lin Xian seriously. In their eyes, a newbie who had just entered the inner sect was not worth mentioning. They could easily kill him with a finger. Their real targets were Qiyu, Luoyuan, and Luoshi. They were their real enemies. Danzong, Baiyun Mountain. This was a very important place in the inner sect. Every time an elder gave a lesson, it would be held here. Today, there were no elders holding classes. However, the number of people that came to Mount Baiyun was countless times greater than before. On top of that, even more disciples were making their way here from all directions. Because today was the day of the inner court competition, the selection of core disciples. This kind of opportunity could be said to be extremely rare. Normally, there were very few opportunities to be promoted to core disciple. If Lu Chao hadn't gone missing, they wouldn't have obtained such a precious spot. In this place, the top disciples would engage in an intense battle. To the ordinary inner disciples, this was undoubtedly a grand battle event. Halfway up Mount Baiyun, there was a huge piece of flat land. It was covered with green stone slabs. It was the White Cloud Plaza. At this moment, countless people had gathered in the White Cloud Square. They were like dark clouds. Basically, all the inner disciples had arrived. The main characters of this competition, the elite disciples of the inner court, had also arrived one by one. Every time one of them appeared, it would cause a wave of exclamations. It could not be helped, as the top 10 inner disciples were extremely powerful and had outstanding reputations. They already possessed extremely high statuses among the inner disciples. The 10 inner disciples stood in a row at the front. Those people were wearing luxurious clothes and had a dignified appearance. They had a strong and confident aura. However, at this moment, another silhouette slowly walked forward. Who is that? Everyone was puzzled as they realized that it was an unfamiliar face. Young, handsome, and confident. However, when they sensed the cultivation of the other party, they were all dumbfounded. A 2-star king. He only had the cultivation of a 2-star king. Oh, I know. He's that Lin Xian. What? He's Lin Xian? He really dares to come? With his cultivation, he dares to come on stage? What a disgrace. He doesn't know what's good for him. I guess he's just a hothead. He thinks that he can become a core disciple just because he has a little background. But he doesn't know that this battle is about strength. Any schemes and tricks are useless. Cold laughter could be heard, and the entire plaza was in an uproar. When Lin Xian heard the voices around him, he narrowed his eyes and snorted coldly. He didn't say anything to argue, because in a while, he would use his own strength to let everyone know who was the frog at the bottom of the well. Brother Lin, go for it. Zhou Hai and the others in the crowd cheered when they saw this. Lin Xian smiled and greeted Zhou Hai and the others. Soon, Lin Xian arrived at the front of the plaza. The 10 inner disciples in front of him looked arrogant and looked at him with disdain. In their eyes, Lin Xian was not qualified to stand with them. Kid, get lost. This is not a place where you can come. I advise you to admit defeat and leave quickly. You'll only embarrass yourself later. A piece of trash wants to become a core disciple? What a joke. A few disdainful laughs could be heard. The others also looked at Lin Xian with arrogance on their faces. On the other hand, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and stared at the three arrogant fellows. He asked coldly, "What are the names of the three geniuses?" Yang Fan, Qing Feng, Wu Kuan. The three of them said arrogantly and then sneered, "Kid, you're really ignorant. You don't even know our names?" Lin Xian said coldly, "It's not too late to know now. I'll remember the three of you. I won't go easy on you in the battle later. I'll let you know the consequences of talking nonsense." After saying that, he turned around and stood aside. "Kid, you're courting death." The three of them were furious. A new inner disciple dared to threaten the three of them? He was really courting death. The remaining 7 inner disciples also widened their eyes in disbelief. Their eyes kept sizing up Lin Xian, wondering where he got his confidence from. One had to know that he was only a 2-star king. So what if he was strong? At most, he was equivalent to a 3-star king. However, their cultivation was at the 3-star king level, and most of them were at the late stage of the 3-star king level. If they used some secret techniques, they could even compete with 4-star kings. They could be said to be extremely powerful. It could be said that they were the top group of people in the inner sect. Now, a new ant dared to look down on them? It was truly unbelievable. "Kid, I'll teach you a lesson now. You don't know your place." The few of them were about to attack. However, at this moment, a few ear-rending sounds came from afar. Several figures flew over at high speed like rainbows. "It's the core disciples and elders." In the crowd, the inner disciples exclaimed. Everyone looked up at the sky. Upon seeing this, the 3 inner disciples who were about to attack immediately halted their actions and harumphed coldly. "Kid, you're lucky. However, you won't be so lucky in the battle later. Thank you, Angel Reincarnation, for giving you a worry-free reward." Chapter 1572. Kid, you're lucky, but you won't be so lucky in the competition. I'll cripple you in front of everyone. That's what you get for messing with us. Kid, you're dead meat. Just you wait. A few threatening voices were heard. Then, the 3 of them ignored Lin Xian and looked at the sky. Lin Xian sneered and shook his head. He did not care about these 3 arrogant guys at all. No matter how strong they were only slightly stronger than Feng Li. Compared to a true core disciple like Lu Chao, they were a far cry. He could even kill Lu Chao, let alone these 3 inner sect disciples. He smirked and looked up at the sky as well. There were 5 or 6 rainbows in the sky. They were very fast and arrived above Baiyun Mountain in the blink of an eye. Then, they appeared on the square in a flash. 2 of them were elders in robes. Their hair and beards were white, and they were full of power. The other 3 were young people, 2 men and 1 woman. The woman was Chuyu. The other 2 young people were also handsome, and they were surrounded by a bright light. Without a doubt, they were all core disciples. "Greetings, elders." All the inner sect disciples shouted at the front. Then, they began to discuss quickly. Most of them looked at Chuyu and the other 2. When the top 10 inner sect disciples saw Chuyu and the others, their eyes turned red and they trembled with excitement. Idols. These were their idols. At the same time, they were extremely excited, because after today, one of them would become a core disciple like a carp leaping through the dragon gate. They would be above all the other inner sect disciples. Thinking of this, they were excited. Chuyu looked in Lin Xian's direction and revealed a charming smile. Suddenly, the inner sect disciples went crazy. They had never seen such a beautiful smile before. "So beautiful," everyone exclaimed. "I wonder who that fairy is smiling at?" Needless to say, it must be one of the top 10 inner sect disciples. The others have no chance. The top 10 inner sect disciples were also excited and their eyes turned red. They thought that Chuyu was smiling at them. However, only Lin Xian understood that Chuyu was smiling at him. Thus, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he smiled and nodded in response. Of course, no one was paying attention to Lin Xian. Otherwise, his actions would cause everyone to go crazy again. Then, under the instructions of the two elders, everyone retreated to the back, leaving enough space. At the center of the square, there was a 300-meter-long spirit formation stage that was shining with countless rays of light. All of a sudden, the spiritual energy in the surroundings began to surge violently and converge in this direction. This was a defensive array formation. Naturally, it was meant to protect White Cloud Mountain. Otherwise, with the means of these genius disciples, they would probably be able to destroy this mountain with a raise of their hand. The rules of the competition were very simple. Those who lost 3 or more matches in a row would be directly eliminated. Only when the final 3 were chosen would the final battle begin. Now, let the core disciple selection begin. A dignified voice rang out like a clap of thunder, spreading in all directions. Suddenly, the entire square quieted down. Everyone widened their eyes and looked ahead carefully. As for the inner sect genius disciples, they all held their breaths. They knew that it was time to test them. In front of them, on the White Cloud Square, the spirit formation stage flashed. Under the feet of Lin Xian and the other 10, there were also circles of light that flickered. When 2 of the circles lit up, it would be the time for the 2 to fight. This was a random selection. No one could tamper with it. Soon, the light flickered and the circles under the feet of 2 people lit up. Then, the 2 of them swayed and arrived at the spirit formation stage. One of the 2 young men was ranked 9th, Ding Li, and the other was ranked 7th, the arrogant Wu Kuan. Ding Li, you're no match for me. Hurry up and back off before you embarrass yourself. We'll only know if I can beat you after we fight. Ding Li, ranked 9th, gritted his teeth. Although his ranking was lower than Wu Kuan's, he would not admit defeat. You're really stubborn. Since that's the case, I'll teach you a lesson. Wu Kuan sneered and quickly attacked. The 2 of them exchanged 50 moves. Ding Li, ranked 9th, was hit by Wu Kuan's punch and flew backward while vomiting blood. I told you, you're no match for me. Wu Kuan defeated his opponent and looked very arrogant. At the same time, he turned his eyes and stared at Lin Xian. Kid, when you come up later, you'll end up worse than him. Sensing that aura, the surrounding disciples all trembled. Lin Xian, on the other hand, completely ignored the other party. Of course, this was just a small interlude. Next, the competition proceeded quickly. These disciples were the top geniuses of the inner sect. Each of them was extremely terrifying. Their fights were very exciting. Next, it was the young man named Yang Fan's turn. He was more powerful than Wu Kuan, so he defeated his opponent in 30 moves. Qiyu, Luo Yuan, and Luoshi, who were ranked in the top 3, were even more powerful. They defeated their opponents in 10 moves. The 3 of them formed the first echelon and were above the rest. However, at this moment, a light flashed under Lin Xian's feet. Is it my turn? Lin Xian whispered. Then, his body flickered and he appeared in the arena in front of him. Haha, my luck is too good. I can't believe I've met an ant. This battle would be as easy as blowing off dust. At the same time, an arrogant laugh was heard. Then, a figure flew forward. Lin Xian's opponent was one of the arrogant young men, Qing Feng. He was ranked 10th and was very nervous. He was afraid that he would not be able to pass the first round. However, it seemed that his luck was too good. It was his first time meeting a newcomer who had just entered the inner sect. This was undoubtedly great news for him. Seeing this, the others also exclaimed, while the few inner court geniuses whispered to each other. Qing Feng was really lucky. It seemed that he could survive the first round. Yes, that kid is so weak. He could probably send him flying with one slap. What a pity. It seems that I don't have to do anything. Wu Kuan sneered. But it was good. Qing Feng was enough to deal with that kid. At the same time, he did not forget to remind Qing Feng, don't be soft. Teach this kid a lesson. Don't worry, Brother Wu. I know what to do. In the arena, Qing Feng replied. Then, he looked at Lin Xian and said coldly, Kid, how is it? You didn't expect this, did you? It's your misfortune to have met me. However, It's too late for you to beg for mercy now. I'll teach you a lesson in front of everyone. I'll let you know that ants are not allowed to come here." Then, he revealed a hideous smile. Chapter 1573. The others also laughed because no one was optimistic about Lin Xian. A 2-star king and a 3-star king were not on the same level. The outcome would be decided in one move. The surrounding inner sect disciples also looked on with a mocking expression. Even the 2 core disciples who came frowned. They could not imagine how a 2-star king could participate in such a competition. However, the 2 elders asked in a low voice, Is this the person you recommended? Can he really do it? He's only a 2-star king. Don't worry, elders. There will be no problem." Chu Yu stood up with a smile. The 2 elders nodded and did not say anything. However, their eyes were filled with disbelief. Lin Xian said coldly when he heard his opponent's clamor from the battle array arena. "You'll pay for your cheap mouth. You're courting death." Qing Feng roared in anger. His 5 fingers turned into claws and grabbed at Lin Xian. The horrifying palm extended like a 5-fingered mountain and shrouded Lin Xian with great speed. Lin Xian snorted. His eyes shone with a cold light. He clenched his fist and punched. Boom! The punch was extremely terrifying. It was as bright as the sun, and the entire void was burning. Bang! An earth-shattering sound was heard as the 2 palms collided. The entire space shattered. Crack! Crack! A scream was heard, followed by the sound of bones breaking. Then, a figure was sent flying. Humph! The outcome has been decided. I've said that Lin Xian can't do it. A 2-star king. How dare he go up with such strength? He's courting death. The surrounding disciples were discussing. As for the genius martial artists in the top 10, they were all sneering at him. It's over so soon? What a piece of trash. Wu Kuan said coldly. It seems that I won't have a chance to fight. On the other side, Yang Fan was also disdainful. The others mocked as well. However, they were all stunned in the next moment. Yang Fan and Wu Kuan widened their eyes as if they had seen a ghost. The surrounding inner disciples also exclaimed, "What? This is impossible." It turned out that the light above the array stage had already disappeared, revealing the scene inside. Lin Xian stood with his hands behind his back. His expression was calm. Beside him, Qing Feng was holding his arm and half kneeling on the ground. His expression was exceptionally sinister. Blood was still flowing on the ground. Only now did they realize that the one who was screaming was not Lin Xian, but Qing Feng. But how was that possible? Everyone was stunned, not daring to believe it. That was Qing Feng. He was a genius disciple ranked in the top 10 of the Inner Sanctum, and he had even reached the late stage of 3-star king realm. This strength could be said to be incomparably terrifying. However, Lin Xian was only a 2-star king who had just entered the inner court. How could such a person win? For a moment, everyone was stunned on the spot. On the opposite side, Qing Feng was half kneeling on the ground. He was also panicking. He shook his head frantically. Impossible. Damn it. This is impossible. I don't believe it. How did you injure me? He could not believe it at all. He thought that he had been hit by an illusion. However, the pain that came from his palm made him realize that this was not an illusion, nor was it a dream. It was real. He was injured by a 2-star king. He was injured by a punch. Humph. I've said that you'll pay for your foul mouth. This is just the beginning. Lin Xian snorted coldly, then took a step forward. Suddenly, light shone under his feet, forming a sword ray. In an instant, Lin Xian appeared in front of his opponent. So fast. Seeing this scene, everyone cried out in surprise because that speed shocked them. Even the ordinary inner court disciples couldn't catch Lin Xian's trajectory at all. Even the top 10 sky prides of the inner sect were frowning. On the array stage, Qing Feng's expression changed drastically. He screamed in horror. What are you trying to do? Smack. However, what answered him was a slap. This slap landed on his opponent's face. Immediately, all of his teeth were smashed and blood splattered in the air. In an instant, Qing Feng's face became swollen. It was like a pig's head. However, Lin Xian did not let him go. He waved his palm continuously. Suddenly, the crisp sound of a slap echoed throughout the entire valley. The 10th slap. Qingfeng was directly sent flying. He crashed to the side, creating a huge crater. His face was unrecognizable. His body kept twitching. He had suffered severe internal injuries. In the end, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. Shock. Absolute shock. For a moment, the hundreds of thousands of disciples in the White Cloud Square were silent. Everyone was stunned. Lin Xian was weak? Trash? Did he get in through the back door? Everyone's mouth twitched. They felt that their faces were swollen from the slaps. If such a person was trash, then no one in the inner sect could be considered a genius. This was totally beating up the top 10 geniuses in the inner sect. However, they still could not believe it. Lin Xian was only a 2-star king. How could such a battle be possible? Even the 2 elders were astonished. Now, they knew why Chuyu had such a confident smile. Lin Xian was definitely not trash. He was a genius. A peerless genius. He had even surpassed most of the disciples in the Danzong and could compete with the geniuses in the sacred ground. Only the geniuses in the sacred ground or the disciples of the clan of the ancients could beat up a 2-star king. However, they did not expect such a person to appear in the Danzong. We must train this person well. The 2 elders made up their minds. Beside them, the other 2 core disciples also looked serious. They wanted to watch a show, but they did not expect to see such a shocking scene. In the next moment, they stared at Lin Xian. Their eyes were shining. The inner sect geniuses were even more shocked. Their mouths were wide open in disbelief. Wu Kuan and Yang Fan's faces were terrifyingly gloomy. They did not expect that the ant they looked down on was a giant dragon. He was even more terrifying than them. Damn it! How can he be so powerful? The 2 of them gritted their teeth. After Lin Xian sent Qingfeng flying, he swayed and came back again. However, he stared at Wu Kuan and Yang Kuan. Don't worry. You 2 can't run away. I'll deal with you personally later, Lin Xian said coldly. You're courting death. How dare you? The 2 of them were furious. Kid, don't be too arrogant. You may be strong, but so what? Qingfeng is only the 10th inner disciple. He's nothing compared to us. That's right. Just you wait. I'll definitely kill you in the battle later. Chapter 1574. The 2 of them swore that they would defeat their opponent in the battle. Moreover, they had to severely injure their opponent, preferably cripple him. Only then would they be able to prevent future troubles. However, Lin Xian snorted coldly and ignored the 2 of them. There was no need to say anything now. He would just meet them in the battle arena. He would not stop until he slapped his opponent's face until it was swollen. Next, the competition continued. Another genius went up to fight. Soon, the crowd exclaimed again. This time, it was Chiyu. Chiyu, the number 1 inner sect disciple, was recognized as the strongest inner sect disciple. He had a high chance of becoming a core disciple. Now that he went up, he attracted a lot of attention. Even Lin Xian squinted his eyes and looked carefully. A figure appeared in front of him. He was burly, had a cold expression, and had a valiant aura. He was like a god of war as he strode forward. Opposite him was a similarly fierce young man. His eyes were like lightning, and he was also very fierce. He was Guo Xiaotian, ranked 5th. I didn't expect that my opponent would be you. Guo Xiaotian's voice was deep, like a bell, resounding through the void. Chiyu nodded slightly, then said in a deep voice, "Show me your full strength. Let me see your strength." "You will see," Guo Xiaotian replied. Then, a shocking light burst out from his eyes. In the next moment, countless purple flames appeared around him, forming a powerful king's domain. With a roar, Guo Xiaotian charged forward with the purple flame domain. Facing Chiyu, he did not dare to be careless at all. Therefore, he used his most powerful skill right from the start. On the other hand, Chiyu roared to the sky. Endless light rushed out from his body, and his red hair fluttered like red flames. Behind him, a burning moon quickly appeared, exuding a monstrous aura. flaming moon palm. With a wave of his palm, an endless sea of fire condensed, forming a burning moon that pressed forward. In the next moment, the two attacks collided. Two kinds of terrifying flames burned silently, but the sky kept cracking. The purple flame domain and the burning moon kept colliding, eroding, and attacking each other. The overflowing energy turned into waves that swept in all directions, causing the crowd to retreat in shock. Fortunately, there was a formation that formed a strong defense. Otherwise, this attack would have definitely shattered the entire White Cloud Mountain. In the end, the two types of flames erupted with unparalleled power, blasting one black hole after another into the void. Guashaotian, on the other hand, vomited blood and was sent flying. He had lost. Even though he had used an extremely powerful domain technique right from the start, he had still lost. In fact, Qiyu didn't even use his king's domain. He only used a palm technique to achieve victory. Seeing this scene, everyone was extremely shocked. They did not dare to imagine just how strong Qiyu was. So strong. I'm afraid no one is a match for him. Yeah, the core disciple spot this time is very likely to be his. Everyone exclaimed in surprise. Even the two elders nodded their heads slightly. Facing Qiyu's strength, those inner sect geniuses all felt a sense of powerlessness. Humph. However, there were a few exceptions. Luo Yuan, who was ranked second, coldly snorted, his eyes flashing brilliantly as he stared at Qiyu. And Luoshi, who was ranked third, also had a cold expression. Her delicate face was filled with seriousness. On the other side, Lin Xian nodded his head slightly. To be honest, Qiyu's strength was indeed not bad. Although he was only a late-stage 3-star king, he was close to becoming a 4-star king. If he did not participate in the competition, no one among the inner sect disciples would be a match for Qiyu. Unfortunately, with him participating in this competition, Qiyu would definitely not win in the end. Then, the competition continued. Lin Xian went on the stage again. To everyone's surprise, Lin Xian's opponent this time was Wu Kuan. Seeing this scene, everyone exclaimed again. Wu Kuan was one of the people who had mocked Lin Xian before. The other person, Qing Feng, had already been beaten into a pig's head. Would Wu Kuan win? Or would he be beaten into a pig's head? Everyone was looking forward to it. Wu Kuan's face was extremely gloomy. He gritted his teeth so hard that they were about to shatter. He did not expect to meet Qiyu again so soon. This made him feel a sense of fear. This was because the strength that Lin Xian had displayed previously had shocked him greatly. But soon, he comforted himself. Careless. It must be Qingfeng's carelessness that allowed Qiyu to win. If he used his full strength this time, he would definitely be able to kill Qiyu. With a cold shout, Wu Kuan appeared on the stage in a flash. Then, he said coldly, "Kid, don't be arrogant. I will suppress you later." Is that so? I am looking forward to it. Lin Xian shrugged his shoulders and said indifferently, "Do you want me to use only one hand?" "You are courting death." Wu Kuan roared. As an inner sect genius, when had he ever been looked down upon like this? With a roar, he rushed over. Lightning Fire Domain. Wu Kuan immediately unleashed his king's domain, intending to kill Lin Xian. He would not give Qiyu any chance. Flames filled the air and lightning intertwined. The entire void was extremely violent. The power of fire and lightning intertwined, creating thousands of rays of light that caused people's hearts to palpitate. In an instant, Wu Kuan arrived in front of Lin Xian and attacked with his lightning fire domain. "Haha, kid, go to hell." Wu Kuan laughed sinisterly. The inner sect disciples around him also exclaimed. They did not expect Wu Kuan to use his secret technique right from the start. He did not give Qiyu any chance at all. It's over. Lin Xian is in danger. Yeah, Wu Kuan is ranked 7th. He is definitely not someone Qingfeng can compare to. Everyone was discussing. At that moment, everyone looked forward. However, Lin Xian looked calm. He looked at Wu Kuan, who was charging at him crazily, and sneered. Then, he raised his palm and slapped forward. What? He hasn't used his domain yet? Seeing this, everyone was shocked and could not believe their eyes. Even the inner sect experts frowned. They thought that Lin Xian was too arrogant. Slap. However, in the next moment, a crisp sound was heard. Lin Xian slapped Wu Kuan's face and sent him flying. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. They did not expect that the slap would hit Wu Kuan, and that Wu Kuan did not dodge at all. Suddenly, the corners of everyone's mouth twitched. Many people even touched their faces subconsciously. Judging from the power of the slap, half of Wu Kuan's face would definitely be smashed. That was indeed the case. Wu Kuan was sent flying and half of his face was smashed. He could not believe what he had just seen. He had already used his king's domain and used all his strength. However, he was still sent flying. What kind of technique was that? He was terrified. Chapter 1575. Next, he suffered the same fate as Qing Feng. He was slapped into a pig's head and thrown out of the arena. Everyone was shocked and could not believe it. They did not expect the battle to end so quickly. It was simply a one-sided beating. Heavens, just what realm has his strength reached? Why do I feel like he's a bottomless pit? That's right. To be able to send Wu Kuan, who is ranked 7th, flying with a single slap, I'm afraid only the top 5 experts can do that. Are you kidding me? He's at least at the level of the top 3. Everyone was shocked, and the inner sect geniuses were frowning. They realized that they had once again underestimated the young man in front of them. Even in Luoshi, Luo Yuan, and the others frowned at the power he had displayed. What an interesting kid. The two elders' eyes lit up as they stared at Lin Xian. Soon, the first round was over. Then came the second round and the third round. Of course, some people were eliminated in the middle. After the fourth round, more people were eliminated. The battle between the crowd became more and more intense. Soon, the crowd in the White Cloud Square exclaimed again as the competition had reached a climax. And Luoshi, who was ranked 3rd, was fighting against Du Luo Yuan, who was ranked 2nd. And Luoshi was wearing a blue robe. She looked like a fairy and was extremely beautiful. Beside her, countless blue flames were rolling like an ocean. With a wave of her hand, the blue flames instantly enveloped the entire arena. Then, an ice blue sword quickly formed in the flames. Thousands of rays of cold light were emitted, and the terrifying aura seemed to tear the sky apart. On the other side, Luo Yuan snorted coldly as a bright light burst out from his eyes. Countless wolf shadows appeared in the air, each of them exuding a terrifying power. A giant blue sword was waved, carrying a bright light as it slashed forward like a meteor. As for the tens of thousands of divine wolf phantoms, they moved rapidly, blotting out the sky and covering the earth, filling the entire space. A fierce collision sound was heard as a huge collision occurred in the entire space. With a loud bang, sparks flew in all directions. Everyone retreated in horror. This kind of attack was too terrifying. Just the aftershock alone was enough to destroy everyone. The two peerless experts continued to exchange blows. Every strike tore apart the heavens and split the earth. The berserk energy was like an ocean, whistling past. After hundreds of blows, the blue sword exploded and turned into countless flames again, spreading in all directions. And Luoshi was defeated. But on the other side, Luo Yuan was also suffering. His face was pale, and he didn't have much strength left in his body. It could be said that the victory was very dangerous. Many sighed. And Luoshi was the goddess in their hearts, yet she had been defeated. However, it had to be said that this was definitely a shocking battle. Every strike made people's hearts jump. Not long after, Lin Xian went up again. His opponent was Yang Fan, who was ranked 4th. Yang Fan was much stronger than Wu Kuan. However, he was still defeated by Lin Xian. Moreover, his face had been beaten until it looked like a pig's head, and he didn't escape this fate. From then on, everyone was extremely shocked. The strength that Lin Xian had displayed was too strong. Even Yang Fan, who was ranked 4th, was not his match. With such strength, he definitely had the qualifications to enter the top 3. Until now, no one thought that Lin Xian was weak. Even the majority of the inner sect geniuses were ashamed of their inferiority. This was because they were unable to reach such a level of strength. And Luoshi, who was ranked 3rd, and Luo Yuan, who was ranked second, looked even more dignified. They didn't expect that at this time, a peerless expert would appear. And it was a newcomer. The sixth match. Unluashi and Chiyu met. Everyone watched nervously. Unluashi also used all her strength in this battle, but she was defeated after 50 moves. And she was defeated wholeheartedly. It couldn't be helped. Chiyu was really too strong. That burning flaming moon was extremely terrifying. It seemed to be able to suppress everything in the world. This made everyone feel despair. Next, not long after, Lin Xian finally met Luo Yuan. Suddenly, everyone was excited, because the strength that Lin Xian displayed was definitely at the level of the top 3, and Luo Yuan was even stronger. He was ranked second only to Chiyu. This was undoubtedly going to be a fierce battle between dragons and tigers. In the ring, Luo Yuan's eyes were cold. He stared at Lin Xian like a divine wolf. He said in a deep voice, "I admit that you are very strong, beyond everyone's expectations. But against me, you have no chance of winning. It's useless to say more. Let's fight," Lin Xian said indifferently. Boom! Luo Yuan roared. Suddenly, countless divine wolf phantoms filled his surroundings. Each of them was more than 3 meters long and had a pair of divine wings on their back. They exuded a terrifying aura. This is Luo Yuan's unique skill, divine wolf howling the sky. I wonder what Lin Xian will use to resist it? I don't think he has a chance. After all, Luo Yuan is second only to Chiyu. He is the only one who can compete with Chiyu. No matter how strong Lin Xian is, he is probably only on par with Unluashi. I'm afraid he will still lose to Luo Yuan. While everyone was discussing, Luo Yuan had already made his move. He brought the divine wolf phantoms with him and quickly charged towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian looked calm. He formed a seal with his palms and immediately displayed the 9 heavens transformation. A huge 9-headed snakelet took shape in front of him. Its body was as huge as a mountain, and its 9 heads swayed in the air. Instantly, lightning, flames, frost, cold wind, light blades, and various other attacks flew out of the 9 heads and rushed forward. Boom! The divine wolf phantoms were pierced through and turned into spiritual energy that dissipated in the air. What? He actually pierced through them? Seeing this scene, everyone exclaimed in shock. They had never expected that Lin Xian would have such a method capable of instantly defeating a large number of divine wolf phantoms. Even Luo Yuan on the opposite side was moved. The next moment, he roared, "Wolf conquers the world." As his voice rang out, purple radiance erupted from the eyes of the divine wolf phantoms. All the phantoms merged rapidly, forming a huge divine wolf that walked between the heavens and the earth. The divine wolf looked ferocious and terrifying. It walked upright like a giant, black fog rolling around its body and emitting a terrifying energy. Not only that, a huge black saber appeared in its hand. It flickered with an incomparably dark radiance. At this moment, Luo Yuan finally unleashed his strongest technique. With a furious roar, the wolf god phantom brandished its huge black saber and viciously slashed forward. The saber flashed and shattered the void. The saber cleaved the 9-headed snakelet in half. Instantly, the flame, lightning, hailstones, and other energies disappeared. How powerful! Seeing this scene, many inner court disciples exclaimed in surprise. It's out. This is Luo Yuan's strongest technique. That Lin Xian definitely won't be able to block it. Everyone held their breaths and watched carefully. Even Lin Xian was slightly astonished. Luo Yuan was the only person capable of blocking a single attack of his. It was no wonder Luo Yuan was able to become the number 2 genius of that sect. Not bad. Chapter 1576. Lin Xian nodded. Then, he clenched his fist and slammed it forward. Instantly, the great dragon sword soul in his body revolved. Boundless spiritual energy gathered and formed 2 huge steels in the sky. The steels were formed by spiritual energy. They shone brightly and illuminated their surroundings. Although they weren't real, they were like ancient divine steels. They emitted a mysterious energy that caused everyone's heart to palpitate. Suppress. Lin Xian's palm slammed down. Instantly, the ancient steels in the sky pressed down slowly. Shockwaves rolled and the void shattered. The ancient steels directly suppressed the terrifying wolf god. Roar! The wolf god howled madly. Black energy surged out of his body, forming a hellish scene. The black saber in his hand slashed in all directions, creating a black hole in the void. However, he couldn't escape from the divine steels in the sky. In the end, he was imprisoned in the void and howled in pain. Everyone was stunned. After a long time, they all inhaled a mouthful of cold air. As for Luo Yuan, he was stunned. His mind was blank. He couldn't believe it. His strongest technique had actually been easily suppressed by someone else. Moreover, he realized that his opponent had held back. Otherwise, he would have been seriously injured. He might even have been killed. You've won. You're very strong. I've lost. Finally, Luo Yuan sighed and admitted defeat. The moment these words came out, the crowd went into an uproar. Shocking. This was too shocking. Even the second-ranked genius had admitted defeat. Had Lin Xian become so strong? At this moment, even the first-ranked Qi Yu had a solemn expression. The eyes of the core disciples were also shining. The two core elders were also extremely excited. They realized that Lin Xian was truly a peerless genius. He was comparable to those from the sacred land. At this point in the competition, it was already very clear that everyone had a record of defeat. Only Lin Xian and Qi Yu had a record of complete victories. Therefore, the core disciple position would be decided between the two of them. The winner would be the next core disciple. At this thought, everyone couldn't help but get excited. This was going to be the strongest battle among the inner disciples. At this moment, Luo Yuan and Luoshi, Chu Yu, and the other core disciples all focused their gazes forward. Qi Yu was a tall man with a head full of fiery red hair that fluttered in the wind like a burning flame. He stared at Lin Xian and said in a deep voice, "You're very strong, and you've exceeded my expectations. I never thought that the final battle would be with you." Lin Xian chuckled. Life is full of surprises. No one can predict what will happen next. Perhaps you didn't expect to lose in a while. Humph. Hearing this, Qi Yu snorted coldly. The one who will lose is you. There is no doubt about that. There's no point in talking. Let's do it. Lin Xian shook his head slightly. Seeing Lin Xian's contemptuous look, Qi Yu was furious. As the number one disciple of the inner sect, he had always been high and mighty, and no one dared to look down on him. But now, he was being looked down upon. How could he not be angry? Therefore, the moment he made his move, he used a powerful ultimate skill. A burning moon quickly appeared and shrouded Lin Xian. This aura was too terrifying. Even Luo Yuan and Luoshi trembled. Their expressions changed greatly. They had not expected Qi Yu to be so strong. Damn it! He hid his cultivation. Luo Yuan trembled, his eyes filled with fear. He had originally thought that he could compete with Qi Yu, but now it seemed that it was impossible. Qi Yu's aura was very close to that of a 4-star king. Apart from the core disciples, no one could compete with him. Even the two core disciples and the elders nodded slightly, acknowledging Qi Yu's strength. Lin Xian was expressionless, his expression calm. The next moment, he gently raised his hand and pointed with his finger. Void shattering. A finger beam flew out like a heaven-shaking rainbow, flying in the sky. At this moment, the finger beam seemed to be the only thing in the world. It was so bright that no one could open their eyes. Pong! A deep sound rang out as the finger beam instantly shattered the red moon. This scene stunned everyone. They didn't dare to believe it. The red moon contained spiritual energy that was infinitely close to that of a 4-star king. No one among the inner disciples could compete with it. But now, it had been shattered with a single finger. How terrifying was the energy needed to do that? However, the one who did it was only a 2-star king. Everyone felt like they were dreaming. On the opposite side, Qi Yu looked as if he had been struck by lightning. His face turned pale as he kept retreating. A stream of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. It was bright red and dazzling. He was too shocked. This red moon was his ultimate skill. No one in the inner sect could resist it. Only the core disciples could compete with it. But now, The other party had merely pointed out with a finger, and his ultimate skill was broken. He could not accept it at all. At that moment, even the two elders widened their eyes. That was because Lin Xian's battle prowess was truly astonishing. Does this guy have the combat strength of a 4-star king? Thinking of this, everyone sucked in a cold breath. Damn it, I don't believe it. Qiyu roared. He waved his hand, and a huge red moon formed beside him. Moonlight Realm, Qiyu's king's realm. As soon as the Moonlight Realm was formed, it quickly condensed into red moons that pressed forward. Each red moon was like a red mountain, shaking the void and crushing the surroundings. However, Lin Xian only waved his finger and shattered these terrifying red moons. Qiyu roared crazily. He wanted to get closer to Lin Xian with the Moonlight Realm. As long as he could envelop his opponent in his king's realm, he would be able to win. However, that frightening finger light caused him to be alarmed. He could only use his maximum speed to continuously dodge. In the end, after 9 red moons were destroyed, Qiyu finally arrived in front of Lin Xian. Suddenly, Qiyu was ecstatic. His eyes shone with a terrifying light. The Moonlight Realm beside him was even more dazzling. It was like a sea of fire. It's over. The huge Moonlight Realm quickly enveloped Lin Xian. Seeing this scene, everyone cried out in alarm. Could it be that Lin Xian was really finished? At this moment, everyone was extremely nervous. Lin Xian was still calm. He waved his hand and immediately used the Dragon Sword Realm. Thousands of sword chi roared, and killing intense sword. The whole world seemed to have become a world of sword chi. Bang! In the next moment, the two kings' realms collided, and countless cracks appeared in the void. In an instant, the Crimson Moon domain was sent flying by the impact. Puff! Qiyu spat out blood and was sent flying. He hit the ground and could not move at all. Chapter 1577. One hit, just one hit, and he was severely injured. Moreover, it was because his opponent was defending passively. If his opponent had attacked first, he would have been killed. Everyone was stunned. The entire White Cloud Square was silent to the extreme. Defeated. Qiyu was actually defeated. After a long time, the crowd exclaimed. They could not believe that Qiyu, the top inner disciple, was defeated. This was too terrifying. His opponent was only a 2-star king, but the combat power he displayed was even more terrifying than Qiyu's. He had probably reached the 4-star king level. At this moment, all the inner disciples looked at Lin Xian, their bodies trembling. The 2 core disciples in the distance also looked very serious. His combat power was already on par with theirs. As for the 2 elders, they were also extremely excited. A peerless genius, an absolute peerless genius. They, the Danzong, had really picked up a treasure this time. Qiyu was seriously injured and directly fainted. He was carried away for treatment. The entire place was completely silent. After a long time, an elder said in a deep voice, "This competition has ended. The one who became a core disciple is Lin Xian." Everyone was silent. They had never thought that today's result would be like this. Lin Xian revealed a smile. Very good. He had finally become a core disciple. Next, the elder told Lin Xian about the situation of core disciples. After becoming a core disciple, the treatment would be greatly improved. They could have their own mountain to cultivate. Moreover, they could obtain more resources and could even enslave the inner and outer disciples. As Lu Chao went missing, a mountain was empty, so Lin Xian directly took over that mountain. Everything that Lu Chao had before was replaced by Lin Xian. In addition, core disciples had 2 opportunities to listen to the elders' lectures every month. They could read the middle-grade Earth-class martial arts and middle-grade Xian pill recipes. They could cultivate their own spiritual herbs in the mountains and only needed to give 50% to the sect. Of course, the sect had a rule that core disciples would be given a task every 3 months. If they could not complete it, their treatment would be greatly reduced. Lin Xian nodded to show that he understood. He knew that the sect and its disciples had a coexisting relationship. They needed to cooperate with each other. He didn't need to worry about these things. He planned to wait until things were stable before going to the library to see if there were any clues about the Niwa of Gojoseon. Just like that, Lin Xian became a core disciple. The resources he needed were all sent to the mountain peak. Among them, in addition to the cultivation method, pill Dao, and spiritual medicine, there was also a blue pill. It was said that this was a very good pill. Only core disciples and above could have it. The inner and outer sect disciples did not have the fortune to enjoy it. How could there be such a good thing? Lin Xian was overjoyed. What he lacked the most now was energy. If the great dragon sword soul wanted to improve, it would require an extremely large amount of energy each time. Moreover, it would increase exponentially. If he couldn't find so much energy, he was afraid that his realm would stagnate. Now, this blue pill seemed to be a very good pill, so he planned to try it. After those people left, Lin Xian set up a defensive array on the mountain peak and named it Star Mountain. Then, he sat down cross-legged, took out the blue pill, and quickly swallowed it. Immediately, the pill dissolved and a torrent of energy rushed into his meridians. So powerful! Lin Xian was overjoyed. He didn't expect that the blue pill would have such a strong energy. It's really good stuff. No wonder only core disciples have it. He used the longevity incantation and quickly absorbed the energy. However, he soon frowned because the longevity incantation seemed to have changed. The longevity incantation was a cultivation method that he had been practicing since he started cultivating. It could be said that it was very powerful. Moreover, there had never been any changes. However, the longevity incantation had changed. The cultivation method had been reversed. Every cultivation method followed a certain path between the meridians and acupoints in the body to provide energy to the body. It could be said that this path was very stable. However, the longevity incantation had been reversed. Lin Xian didn't dare to imagine the consequences. Damn, what's going on? Lin Xian's expression changed drastically. He wanted to stop, but he realized that he couldn't do it. The longevity incantation was like an azure dragon that quickly reversed in Lin Xian's body and expelled all the energy from the blue pill. Lin Xian's body trembled, and he spat out a blue liquid. It was the blue pill from before. After spitting out the blue liquid, the longevity incantation calmed down and returned to normal. What's going on? Lin Xian's eyes widened. He couldn't understand. The longevity incantation had stopped him from absorbing energy. This had never happened before. Therefore, he called the Crimson Dragon and He Tu over. The two of them were experienced and knowledgeable, so they should know what was going on. After He Tu and the Crimson Dragon heard this, they were also puzzled. They also couldn't understand what was going on. Could it be that something went wrong with your cultivation? The Crimson Dragon said. That's impossible. If something went wrong, I should be seriously injured, but I'm safe and sound. Lin Xian shook his head. At this moment, He Tu said, Kid, try taking other pills and see if your cultivation method will reverse. Hearing this, Lin Xian nodded. He took out a pill that he had refined himself and quickly swallowed it. This time, the longevity incantation didn't reverse. This scene left everyone dumbfounded. After a while, Lin Xian said doubtfully, Could it be that there's something wrong with this blue pill? Or could it be that it conflicts with my cultivation method? Other than that, he couldn't think of any other reason. One had to know that he was an alchemist. He had taken countless pills and nothing had ever happened. Only this big brother's blue pill could cause the cultivation technique to reverse. Thus, after thinking about it, there were only these two possibilities. He Tu nodded. Your cultivation method is very magical. It hasn't made any mistakes for so many years. I don't think it's a problem with your cultivation method. So, it's the pill's problem, the Crimson Dragon said from the side. Then, his eyes flickered as he carefully looked at the pool of blue liquid on the ground. What a strong energy! He waved his dragon claw and took out a drop to examine it carefully. After looking at it for a long time, he didn't find any problems. Although we didn't find any problems, it doesn't mean that there's no problem. Maybe we just don't know yet. He Tu said, Kid, don't eat this blue pill. If you want energy, you can find it anywhere. As the new successor of the Dragon Sword, Lin Xian couldn't be allowed to have any problems with him. Lin Xian also nodded. Even if he wanted to eat it now, he couldn't. As soon as he took this pill, The longevity incantation reversed and spat out all the energy of the pill. Lin Xian had used the longevity incantation for many years, so he didn't think that longevity would harm him. It must be the pill's problem. At this moment, he suddenly thought of an idea. Do you think that the Niwa of Gojoseon's incident has something to do with this blue pill? Chapter 1578. At this moment, Lin Xian suddenly had an idea. Do you think the Niwa of Gojoseon's incident has something to do with this blue pill? Lin Xian asked. Hearing this, Hei-Tu and the Crimson Dragon were deep in thought. Could it be that there's a secret behind this blue pill? I think it's possible, the two whispered. Lin Xian's face lit up. It seemed that he had found a very important clue. In the future, if he searched for this blue pill, he should be able to find some clues. Thinking of this, he did not hesitate. His figure flashed, and he left for Chu Yu's mountain peak. If he wanted to know about the blue pill, he could only ask the core disciples. However, among the core disciples, he was only familiar with Chu Yu. Therefore, he could only ask him. Seeing Lin Xian arrive, Chu Yu smiled and said, "Why are you here instead of enjoying your cultivation resources?" "Oh, it's like this. I just received a blue pill from the sect. After consuming it, I felt that the effect was very good. So I want to ask, how can I get more?" "Oh, you're talking about that pill." Chu Yu smiled. "There's no other way. There's only one pill per month." "Only one pill per month? Is it the same for everyone?" Lin Xian asked calmly. "Yes, it's the same every month. No matter what method you use, you can't get more." "What kind of pill is it? How do you feel after consuming it? Is there anything you're not used to?" Lin Xian asked again. "Why do you ask?" Chu Yu was puzzled. "The effect of that pill is very good. Every time I consume it, I feel refreshed. I feel that my energy and body have reached the peak. This is definitely a rare pill. Only core disciples can consume it. However, I don't know what this pill is called. Everyone calls it blue wave pill." "Blue wave pill," Lin Xian muttered, then frowned. From what Chu Yu said, it seemed that no one felt uncomfortable after consuming it. Moreover, the effect was surprisingly good. But why couldn't he take it? Of course, he didn't dare to tell Chu Yu about this matter. Otherwise, it would alarm the sect, and he would be used for experiments or something. That would be terrible. It looked like he couldn't ask any more questions. Chu Yu seemed to have begun to suspect something. Therefore, Lin Xian didn't ask any more questions. After chatting about some matters related to alchemy and cultivation, he left. "Kid, don't worry, take your time. Otherwise, it will attract the attention of others." Hei-Tu also reminded him. "Yes, I know." Lin Xian nodded and put the matter aside for the time being. A few days later, he went to the sect's library to read some books. He specifically selected some historical records. However, there was no record of the Niwa of Gojoseon. According to the 10,000 Beasting, the Niwa of Gojoseon used to be an elder, and his status and strength were even higher than the core disciples. Logically speaking, there should be records of it. However, after rummaging through the entire library, he didn't find any records of the Niwa of Gojoseon. It looked like the Danzong had erased it. What did the Niwa of Gojoseon do? Why was he pursued by the Danzong like this, and all his deeds were erased? Could it be related to the blue pill? Lin Xian was puzzled, but he couldn't be sure. It looked like he couldn't rush this matter. He could only wait. With a sigh, he returned to the Star Peak. There was no progress on the Niwa of Gojoseon's matter. Lin Xian could only cultivate and increase his strength to deal with the unknown danger. After cultivating for a period of time, he felt that his progress was too slow. After all, he had the great dragon sword soul. The energy he needed was several times more than an ordinary king, or even more than 10 times. Therefore, ordinary energy wasn't enough for him to absorb. It looked like he could only go out and search for opportunities. Lin Xian sighed. As expected, one had to pay a higher price than others in order to be powerful. Fortunately, the matter at Fengshan wasn't over yet. Perhaps he should go and explore it again. The Crimson Dragon agreed with this suggestion. The benefits he received last time had allowed him to advance by 1 level. Therefore, he couldn't forget about it. The two didn't hesitate. They left the Danzong again and set off for Fengshan. The demonic aura at Fengshan was even thicker now. It was overflowing and looked like hell. However, there were more martial artists in the surroundings. Moreover, it wasn't just the sects and countries nearby. Even the sects and sects far away had come. It could be said that there were countless experts now. Damn, what did they find? How did they attract so many people? The Crimson Dragon exclaimed as he looked at the figures flying in the sky. Kid, be careful. Although there aren't any people from the sacred grounds or the clan of the ancients, those from the great sects are also very strong. I'm afraid they're much stronger than the Danzong. Great sects? So strong? Lin Xian was also surprised. He thought that above the Danzong were the clan of the ancients and the sacred grounds. He didn't expect there to be so many great sects in between. He too reminded, kid, don't underestimate these great sections. Some of the more powerful great sects have been passed down for tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years. Among them, the terrifying great sects are not inferior to the sacred grounds or the clan of the ancients. So strong. Lin Xian was shocked. Indeed, there were countless experts in the true spirit world and many sects. It seemed that among these powers, the Danzong wasn't ranked. The great sects had limitless and terrifying foundations. Even He Tu's words carried a trace of seriousness. Lin Xian took a deep breath. His eyes were full of fighting spirit. He believed that with his talent and hard work, he would be able to rule the world one day. While they were talking, Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon's figures were like lightning as they quickly approached Feng Mountain. Compared to a few days ago, this place was even more terrifying. The overflowing aura made people tremble with a single glance. The two carefully advanced. Soon, they passed through the cave they had entered last time. The deeper they went, the more terrifying the aura became. Fortunately, Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon weren't ordinary people, so they were able to resist this terrifying aura. If it were other kings, they wouldn't even dare to enter. However, as soon as they entered Feng Mountain, they were attacked. It was a group of ghosts, emitting a cold aura that wrapped around Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon. But this time, Lin Xian's strength had greatly increased, so he easily dealt with them. As they continued forward, he finally frowned. Because there were fighting sounds coming from ahead. Obviously, the various powers had already started fighting. Relying on his outstanding soul power, Lin Xian sensed danger and quickly avoided those warriors. He didn't want to fight with these people right now and waste his energy, but in the end, he still encountered a group of people. Chapter 1579. There were about a dozen people in this group, and the leader was an old man. However, what made Lin Xian feel at ease was that this old man was only a 4-star king. The young people behind him were at most 3-star kings. The old man stared at Lin Xian, his eyes flickering, but he did not say anything. However, the young disciples beside him sneered and said, "Kid, who are you? How dare you wander around here? Aren't you afraid of death? A 2-star king dares to come in alone? You're really courting death." A few young disciples stepped forward and looked down at Lin Xian with arrogant expressions. The old man frowned, but he did not say anything. This was because he had already checked Lin Xian's cultivation before, and he was only a 2-star king. Such a person was not a threat at all. Moreover, he was also very curious. Where did the other party get the courage to appear here? Lin Xian's expression was solemn. He did not pay attention to these people. His figure flashed, and he prepared to leave from another place. There was danger everywhere now, and he did not want to fight too much. He wanted to preserve his strength. However, those young people did not intend to let him go. A hint of anger even appeared in their eyes. "You're courting death. I asked you a question, and you dare not answer? You're too arrogant. No one dares to ignore us. A mere 2-star king dares to be so arrogant. Looks like we really need to teach you a lesson." They sneered and were about to attack. However, Lin Xian snorted coldly. "If you don't want to die, scram. You're courting death." Hearing Lin Xian's warning, the young people were furious. In their opinion, the other party dared to scold them. He was simply courting death. Therefore, these people shouted coldly and erupted with powerful strength, quickly attacking Lin Xian. Lin Xian's face darkened, and a hint of killing intent appeared in his eyes. He did not want to fight too much and preserve his strength. However, these people in front of him provoked him again and again. It seemed that he had no choice but to attack. He snorted coldly and raised his arm. Suddenly, a dazzling sword light flew out from between his fingers. It was like a long river, fiercely slashing forward. A beam of sword light turned into 3 beams of sword chi and slashed towards the 3 young men in front of him. Puff, puff. 3 low voices rang out as the 3 arrogant youths were sliced in half. What? He was killed. Seeing this scene, the surrounding people widened their eyes in disbelief. Even that old man had a shocked expression on his face. To be honest, the other party was only a 2-star king tier, and he didn't attract his attention at all. Among his disciples, any one of them could easily kill the other party. However, he did not expect that the other party had actually concealed his strength and displayed such powerful strength, killing 3 of his disciples with a raise of his hand. Brat, you're courting death. At this moment, the old man finally could not hold it in any longer. An extremely powerful force surged out from his body, and together with his huge palm, he slapped towards Lin Xian. Instantly, the palm of light covered the sky and the sun, and the immense pressure caused the void to tremble. 4-star king tier? Is this what gives you the right to be arrogant? What a joke. Lin Xian snorted coldly, and a bright light burst out from his eyes. Then, a dragon's roar rang out from his body. A shocking beam of sword light shot up into the sky. He clenched his fist, and a black demonic sword appeared in his hand. Then, he slashed it forward. A sword that split the sky. The huge sword chi was like a black mountain, and it was extremely terrifying. It directly blasted away the huge palm that covered the sky and enveloped the old man. Boom! An earth-shattering sound rang out, and the wind and clouds between heaven and earth moved violently. A huge crack appeared in the sky. The old man's expression changed drastically. He felt an extremely sharp radiance slashing his body, and he was instantly sent flying. At this critical moment, he activated 7 layers of defense. Among them, 3 layers of spiritual power defense, 3 layers of shields, and a piece of armor on his body blocked in front of him. He was truly too terrified because this sword chi made him shudder with fear and trepidation. However, even if he activated 7 layers of defense, it was of no use. The black sword chi cut through all of his defenses and then slashed his body. Boom! The old man was sent flying. More than half of the bones in his body were broken, and there was a terrifying sword wound on his body. Blood splattered in the sky, and the pungent smell of blood filled the air. Damn it! How is this possible? The old man was sent flying for dozens of miles, crashing into countless mountains, before he finally stopped. His eyes were filled with horror. He was a 4-star king. He was extremely powerful, and his opponent was only a 2-star king. However, he was able to seriously injure him with a single sword strike. This was simply too sensational. Damn it, could this kid be from a sacred ground, or a clan of the ancients? Or a disciple of one of those great sects? The old man's scalp went numb. He knew that he had kicked an iron plate this time. Only a disciple of such a force could fight someone of such a high level. Thinking of this, his expression became extremely ugly. In the next moment, he burned the spiritual power in his body, and his entire body turned into a dazzling light as he fled into the distance. Humph! Black Dragon Break. Lin Xian snorted coldly. The black sword chi turned into a black dragon and roared forward. In an instant, the huge black dragon's body swallowed the old man. The sword light exploded, and the sword chi soared into the sky and tore through the sky. The old man was blasted into powder, leaving nothing behind. The disciples that he brought with him were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. They did not expect that their master would be killed. And this person was the ant that they had mocked before. Who are you? You're not human. You're a demon. Everyone, run. The disciples were so scared that their faces turned pale, and they fled in all directions. However, at this moment, the Crimson Dragon sneered. He waved his dragon claws and shouted, "Dragon roars in all directions." In an instant, countless dragon claws lashed out in all directions, filling up the entire space. Bang! Bang! Soon, the dozen or so disciples were all smashed into a bloody mist by the dragon claws. The Crimson Dragon chuckled, while Lin Xian was expressionless. To be honest, he did not have any pity in his heart because the world was cruel. If he did not kill these people, they would kill him. If he and the Crimson Dragon were weak, they would have been killed by the other party long ago. After dealing with these troubles, Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon continued on their journey. In front of them, black qi filled the air, and the aura of death soared into the sky. It was extremely cold. Some of the weaker warriors had no choice but to retreat. However, some of the bolder ones directly activated their king's domains or used their armor to force their way in. As for the powerful kings, their qi and blood surged into the sky, and they were as vigorous as furnaces. From afar, one could see patches of red light that connected the heavens and the earth. Those were the scenes emitted by the qi and blood of the strong. They were so powerful that ghosts and evil beings did not dare to approach. Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon's qi and blood rumbled in their bodies, emitting powerful auras. However, the two of them controlled themselves well and did not appear too shocking. They did not want to attract too much attention. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.